Alrighty, everybody. Welcome back to Culz Reviews Deep Dives. Today is kind of a special episode because for some ungodly reason, you guys have let us do 100 of these. So here we are again, talking another film. Grayson and Alex and Nick have not had to sit through all 100 films, quite luckily for some of those because some of them were god awful. But you guys should at least recognize them from a video, or if you have Alex as your profile picture, perhaps you recognize him from profile pictures. But yeah, today it's 100th episode. We're going to talk Ghostbusters, because why not? You should recognize Alex from the last time we talked Ghostbusters. We did Frozen Empire. He was there. Grayson is in the bottom right corner as of now. You should recognize him from a few videos: A Long Road Trip to South Dakota, Django Unchained, Spider-Man, amongst others. And then Nick's over there. He's not talking Spider-Man today, but he will talk Ghostbusters. Nick, how are you doing?
Doing well.
Doing well. Grayson, how's it going since we talked on Django?
Oh, we're just living dreams, bud. Living dreams, cashing checks, and snapping necks. Doing that whole thing.
You're killing it.
Oh,
You're killing it tonight.
Just T-Port will do anything outside of, what we've been doing, buddy. We're getting there.
Hey, we're getting there, and people are watching. Hopefully, hey, for anyone watching, share it. Let's make this our most watched video. I think right now, for our deep dives, Django is leading the pack, so let's see if we can dethrone Django Unchained and Young Guns, because Young Guns is number 2. So off the bat, have any of you not watched Ghostbusters before watching it for the deep dive?
I'm just kidding.
Alex, you have
I was like, you're wearing the
uniform.
costume, dude. That was literally one of my first introductions to you at work. Was you wearing the costume for Halloween?
That's right.
And I was like, this guy is way over the top.
I thought you were about to say this guy is a loser.
I mean, if the shoe fits, pal.
We'll save this for Culz After Dark. If you guys want to pay for our Patreon, we'll make this an actual show. Grayson, what is your first memories of watching Ghostbusters?
Well, I didn't watch this movie until I was first a teenager, because my family really didn't own the movie, and they weren't really huge fans of the movie. So, but I watched it when I turned like 18, because I had like a Netflix subscription I think it was on at the time, and always wanted to see it. And that's pretty much when I watched the movie. So nothing too nostalgic or super, deep in the Grayson lore to make me super attached to this movie. But I liked it when I first saw it. So
I was hoping we had some deep cuts tonight, but see, that's why I brought Alex on, so we could have some deep nostalgic moments. Alex,
I'm waiting for Alex to just like give us the one story about how Ghostbusters changed his life. Like, he was sitting there in elementary school and nobody wanted to be friends with him, and then he said, "Man, I just want to go home and watch Ghostbusters." And then like he had like 17 friends out of nowhere. That's what I'm waiting for.
Is this a true story?
I mean, I would say maybe a quarter of that's true. Like, sitting in school, like, man, Ghostbusters is so cool. Definitely elementary school. There was a time, I don't remember what grade it was, but I did dress up like a Ghostbuster for Halloween, and I didn't have any of the stuff, like the proper stuff, because at the time, Halloween costumes were like really crappy back then, with like the plastic masks with the elastic in the back. And at this time, the only Ghostbusters costume you can get was like the one from the cartoon, so the real Ghostbusters. But I refused to wear those because they were so stupid and cheap looking. And so I remember wearing, I had like some khaki pants and actually a khaki members only jacket, and I zipped it up because the pockets in the front were I guess, they weren't like the jumpsuit, but like it was close enough. I was like, I felt like it was more of a legit costume. But yeah, no, that was elementary school. Also, I had friends, so whatever, Nick.
Listen, man, I'm just projecting. I didn't really have any friends. I was a phase, man. Everybody grew out of me.
So,
Wow.
Alex, you are a part of Ghostbusters Georgia, is that correct?
Yes, the the Georgia Ghostbusters. Part of the Pat Shire. And also, I guess, technically the Atlanta Ghostbusters as well, which... Okay, there we go. Atlanta Ghostbusters. I've not officially joined any of the guys out here, the franchise out here, which I know there's like a couple of them. I know there's Fort Collins, there's the actual Colorado Ghostbusters, which I do have their patch. So yeah, I'm part of one of the mini franchises.
So can I ask a question?
Oh my gosh, what?
What do you actually do as part of the Ghostbusters in the real world here?
It's just basically a fan club essentially, and then do events, conventions, a lot of charity stuff too. It's kind of on par with the 501st, which is the Star Wars version of all this, but a little bit more fun because people don't take themselves too seriously like they do in the 501st. And yes, I'm talking crap about the 501st because I'm also part of that too. At least I was.
Alex is gonna get kicked out of every single one of those things before this deep dive comes out.
No, those things
or
need to
after.
be kept in check.
Fuck
yeah, those
those
501st did. 501st is rough, bro. They can be anyway.
That's why I left. I can't remember what year I left, but I was just like, I'm just gonna distance myself, join the Ghostbusters because Ghostbusters was always a thing that I enjoyed. Like I loved it before even Star Wars, and you know, I knew a lot of the guys, and they were a lot cool. They were really cool, and like the club was just very chill, and they weren't so serious about it like the 501st. It's like, wow, cool guys that aren't like, you know, taking everything so seriously. So anyway.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna leave your stupid Star Wars club and go join some Ghostbusters.
Guys are lame.
Alex knows how I feel about Star Wars. Okay, I love me some Star Wars, but I hate the fans because there are fans like Alex, and yes, I'm talking smack, Alex.
Mm-hmm.
There are fans who just like will argue over everything in the Star Wars. Like it's not what it used to be. And I'm like, I don't care anymore.
All right, before we get too diverted into the MCU lore. So, kind of going off like costumes, I just wanted to know how like Comic-Con and Galacticon or Pop Culture Con, whatever it's called now, how that has influenced that. Like, Greyson, you've been to a couple too, right? Like, how much Ghostbusters stuff do you see?
At the ones here in Denver, it started out as like a smaller thing. Like they had, you know, the Ecto 1, and then there was more Ecto 1s that kind of just built up from there. And then there is like some chapters that show up. They have like they redid a Subaru Forester as the Ecto 1, not like an actual Cadillac hearse from back in the day. But I mean, it still looks pretty cool. I'm about to ADHD myself off on a tangent, so I'm going to try to stay on direct here. The chapters here, like they're pretty, you know, they're pretty tame. They're not a whole lot, but they're pretty chill dudes whenever you talk to them. A lot of them put like a lot of work into their costumes, but you can definitely tell some don't. But for the most part, they're getting bigger-ish, but they're not like a super active, large part of the cons or anything.
Yeah, see,
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, when I was in Roswell at Galacticon, I would say Ghostbusters was probably like the second biggest IP there, which is kind of weird. Number 1 was Doctor Who, and then 3 was Star Wars. Like,
that's wild.
Right.
That's crazy.
All right, Nick, you can proceed.
I was just gonna ask Greyson if he's gone to any anime conventions.
I want to put it this way. Long story short, no, because just the smell's got to be ungodly. No, I'm kidding. But it's
and we just lost a lot of viewers.
No, yeah, it's no. I'm putting the jokes in there just for, you know, the gigs, but I really haven't. It's not really something that I do. The Pop Culture Con at the Denver, whatever it's called now. A lot of it is anime stuff. Yeah, the Fan Expo stuff. A lot of it is, it's honestly like 50-50, like comic books and all that stuff and anime. It's pretty diverse. So I haven't like gone to a dedicated anime fair, or anime festival or anything like that, but it's been a lot of what's gone on at Fan Expo and stuff like that for a long time. So
I got you. My first convention I ever went to was an anime convention, and I went as Spider-Man, and some guy stopped to give me a high five. He's like, "You belong at Comic-Con, but good try." And then I was like, I'm like, dude, it's a convention. Everyone's dressing up, and even then, I wasn't the only person dressed up as a comic book character there. At every convention you go to, there's always at least 17 Deadpools.
Hey, look,
Mhm.
anime Spider-Man. It's legit. You can go.
Yeah, there's that too. Yeah.
I can go now. Is that what you're saying?
I approve.
I mean, if you wanted
no,
to pull Ultimate card, you could have pulled, I'm the Japanese Spider-Man from Japan. That's what this is. A 1970 film.
There you go.
Yeah, I got my spider powers from Aliens.
And I shoot ropes and climb up the ropes.
And then you have a spider bot.
That's
I
awesome.
forgot about the spider bot.
Right. It just they knew the audience they were going for. We'll say that. They took an IP and they're like, here you go. All right. Speaking of, let's try to get our audience. Hey, it's the 100th episode. What is going on?
Oh.
There's someone in a gray screen. Oh, Russell Wilson abducted you?
Yes. Oh man, I'm stuck in one of his bathrooms.
If you listen, you can faintly hear, that's right, Broncos country. That's right.
Which one? Which bathroom?
Bathroom
But
10.
It's got
Not the
like
master
go
bath.
on it. It's like got Steelers curtains.
You missed it,
I
Grayson,
thought
for our.
This is supposed to be a Ghostbusters deep dive, and we barely talked about Ghostbusters at all.
But on that note, now that Matt's here, we will finally get to what you guys maybe have not clicked away because we haven't talked about too much yet. And that is Ghostbusters, the 1984 film. I know me and Alex and Matt did start watching the 2016 one by mistake. It was really easy to do. It was trending on Tubi. We had no idea. We just clicked it.
Right?
Yeah, I was just told watch Ghostbusters, and that was the first thing that popped up.
It was not even a lie. For some reason,
It's the
trending on.
greatest Ghostbusters of all time.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you mean the one with the 4 females. I know the best one.
Nick, I don't even think you've seen that one.
We
You
were
can't
about
have-
ready to watch that one. What are you talking about? That was like number 1 on our list. We typed in Ghostbusters and boom, it popped up. It was like the girls Ghostbusters. There we go.
All right.
There's
Well-
4 female Ghostbusters. The feminists are taking over. I'm an adult virgin.
That's a reference to was that TikTok or a Vine or something?
That was a Vine back in the day.
How long back in the day?
Yeah,
Back in the day.
How many years are we talking? No, but so who wants? I figured tonight before we get into the movie, because it actually kind of has an interesting origin into becoming the movie as far as being Ghost Smashers first, and then all that led up to it, and then yeah. So Nick, you watched a documentary on that, right?
I did. There's a lovely series on Netflix called The Films That Made Us. And actually, according to that documentary, the original title was Ghostbusters. But then they had to fight with another TV station to get that title because they had a series going called Ghostbusters. So during the time of filming, I don't know how much you want me to get into it. During the time of filming, when they first started filming, they were filming each scene twice. And anytime they mentioned Ghostbusters in a scene, they would film it a second time and change it to Ghost Breakers. And then finally, after a little bit, they had the crowd for one scene chanting Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters, and the one guy called Columbia Pictures where the film was being made out of, and he's like, "Here, listen to this," and he just heard the crowd singing, Ghostbusters. And he's like, "We're not filming each scene twice anymore," so they kind of stopped doing that, and then up until like a few weeks before the movie came out, it was still a working title of Ghostbusters. Then the guy who greenlit the film from Columbia had left Columbia Pictures and went over to Universal, which Universal held the rights to Ghostbusters. And then he was able to like, okay, well, make the deal, give him the title, and then they finalized the title of Ghostbusters that way.
So that company was actually Filmation. They had a live action show, and they also had a cartoon called Ghostbusters as well. And that's why in 1986, when the real Ghostbusters came out following the film, they actually had to call it Real Ghostbusters, because even though they could call it Ghostbusters, they still had to differentiate somehow. So that was because they only had the rights to the film, nothing else.
Right. Filmation was owned by Universal at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was only because the guy that they were working with he actually went over to that company, and he helped, bring that process along, which was cool. But yeah, this one started out as a Dan Aykroyd, John Belushi picture, and then, they had some other SNL people in mind for the third Ghostbuster, but Eddie Murphy was starting to get hot, and they brought him on as the third Ghostbuster, but not as everyone thinks it's a different character, but he was actually going to be more of the Egon character, which is I think everyone thinks just because Winston is Ernie Hudson's character, that's who they think he was going to be. Another kind of big thing was the look of the Ecto one was going to be black with white and purple like lighting, which I don't know, it seems kind of cool.
And that was actually supposed to be more of a hearse than
Mm-hmm.
what they eventually went with, which was the ambulance model.
Yeah, which was custom made. I think there was only like 20 of those actually in production at the time, and 2 of them were in Ghostbusters.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a fun little thing. Obviously, they were a little bit different because it was in the future. Me and Alex, I know we were talking about this in 2012. And what were they supposed to be more like? Because they were more like outlaws too. Like they were outside the law. Like the cops did not like the Ghostbusters, but they were also plumbers.
Yeah, so it wasn't just them. Like there were multiple. Like it was actually, I guess, I don't know if you call it like a job or whatever, but there were multiple groups of these Ghostbusters. But yeah, they were just basically at the end of the day, they're just plumbers or exterminators or whatever. And it was all very bizarre. It was like the interdimensional and just it was like the sci-fi aspect of it was just like very bizarre.
Right, ghosts flying in spaceships. Who would have thought?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dan Aykroyd. Not a lot of that script made it into it outside of Mr. Stay Puft Marshmallow over there that we can see in Matt's picture was in the original script. Something not in the original script was the firehouse. That was not the headquarters, but an abandoned gas station.
Mm.
So that's something else that's a little bit different. And also, they kind of looked at the archetypes of Scarecrow, Lion, and the Tin Man as far as the main 3. So they were trying to differentiate and give each one a different archetype. Now,
I know that there was also no females in the original script as well, according to the documentary on Netflix.
Yeah, I think the commentary for the film, Harold Ramis mentioned something like, because it's a comedy, eventually became a comedy after, he came in and rewrote the script with Aykroyd, because Aykroyd was just freaking out there. And then when they grounded it, he mentions that, when they brought in Sigourney Weaver, because she wanted to be a part of the film, it's like, because it's a comedy, it's, comedy's always been kind of a boys club. And, he said something like, we've been accused of not being able to write female characters. So, I mean, that kind of makes sense why there was no one like that in the original script or whatever, because, it's a comedy. It's like they're used to just having all the dudes there.
Yeah, and then before everyone else got involved, obviously Belushi would pass away of an overdose. And that's when Aykroyd sent the script to Bill Murray. And Bill Murray seemed to enjoy it. And I guess Aykroyd was under the impression that he had come on board. But I don't think anyone actually knew he was going to be there till like a day or 2 before filming began.
He wasn't known that he was going to be there until the day filming began, actually.
Yeah.
It was
which I guess is something he pulled a lot back then.
Yeah, it was his character trait back in the 80s. No one was ever sure he's actually going to be in a film. I think the day before filming began, he was actually over in Europe. And then, yeah, he showed up at 8 a.m. the day of filming beginning to start filming.
Yeah, because they were using he was filming Razor's Edge, and I know they were kind of using that as a ploy to get him. And I've never seen Razor's Edge. I kind of want to now, just to. I've seen the original
either.
With what's his face?
Shoot, but yeah, it's based off of a actual book. 1946 film with
he was in Black Swan. I know, what was his name?
Tyrone Power.
Tyrone Power. Yep, there we go. But also, who was gonna play Louis Tully?
John Candy.
Right, in all the early drawings, you see Candy, but some people have theorized it was because he didn't want to get typecast since he had just played two similar characters. And then he gave him all these weird demands that he wanted to be like German with German shepherds and stuff.
Yeah.
So it was also because he wanted to change the character around a lot. He had a different idea for the character. And then Rick Moranis came in and he wanted to make the character a nerd, and it just worked.
I mean, it is kind of funny because, he was demanding, it was like, oh, I think it'd be funny if he was like German. I had all these German shepherds and all this stuff, and then eventually that was kind of poo-pooed by Ivan Reitman, who's like, well, we've already got enough dog imagery, it might confuse people. And then I think he left the project because I think he was like his agent wanted too much or something, so they eventually just they're like, oh well. But he had worked with Ramis before and Bill Murray, so but when they got they got
Rick Moranis.
Rick Moranis, thank you, Rick Moranis, because he was also on SCTV with Harold Ramis, and I think Ivan Reitman also knew him, as he says in the commentary. He's like, oh yeah, we're both Canadian, so of course we know each other.
Well, and who was going to play Gozer before what we got?
I guess I'll answer that one. That was actually going to be Pee Wee Herman himself, Paul Rubens.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I was blanking on who. That's right. That's what the documentary mentioned too. It was supposed to be Pee Wee Herman. All the original artwork showed basically Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah,
and he was wearing a tuxedo and all that, and
and then I think it was the model. I think the actress was actually a model beforehand, and then she joined.
Yeah, she was. Oh shoot, she was actually in a horror film more recently. Oh, what was that? It was like one of those like weird found footage movies. It was like in the mid 2000s. It was House on Haunted Hill in 1999. I think she played like some weird nurse character. Is that the one with Liam Neeson? I can't remember.
I have not seen that one. So
no, you're thinking it's Jeffrey Rush.
Okay.
Greyson came in for the save because I had no idea.
Gotta contribute where I can. I'm real dry knowledge on the subject.
It's good. I think we all researched different portions, so that should help us with a hopefully really good in-depth one. But yeah, they Ernie Hudson, they brought on obviously his character Winston because they wanted an everyman that the audience could relate to. And a lot of this did come from Ivan. And Alex, do you want to go more in depth on that?
Oh, bringing in Winston?
Well, just like what Ivan, him, and Harold, what they were doing to change it from Aykroyd's kind of crazy, multi-dimensional film to more of a let's put ghosts in a gritty New York type of film.
It was very much Ivan Reitman and Harold Ramis that kind of like reined Dan Aykroyd in from his craziness. Although like I freaking love his craziness, I can just listen to that man ramble on about whatever. But yeah, it would make more sense to the audience, and would reach a wider audience if it was more contemporary in the current day in New York on Earth, not some interdimensional nonsense. But yeah, when it comes to Winston, he was the everyman. He was supposed to kind of be the connection to the audience, be the guy who's just like, what? This is a world where all this weird stuff is happening, but also to be the connection to the audience where it's, he's the everyman, he's the normal guy. Also, he was supposed to have like a lot more lines in the movie. Like any, I think he even mentioned the commentary, and there's like several documentaries where he talks about how he got all these like really quippy good lines. I think Iron Reitman said something to the effect of, maybe he kind of spread those out between the other characters, and of course Bill Murray got most of them because he's the witty comedic actor. But yeah, it kind of was a bummer to Ernie Hudson, because he was kind of brought onto this project thinking that he was going to be more in this film than he was, because he was actually written in earlier in the script, but then the script changed right before a day of shooting, and he got the updated script, and it was like he was brought in much later. But yes, so he kind of lost all the lines, but in the end, I think it really worked out. Like he's got most of the memorable lines. Probably the most memorable of, I've seen shit that'll turn you white, and he's even on record, like people like say the line. But they don't, as he put it in a documentary, he's like, yeah, when they come up to me and ask me to say the line, they don't say the bad word. They want me to say the bad word. So I guess it's just for more comedic effect, but yeah, and it was like a whole thing about how, because he wasn't written out, but it was like he got less of a role, I guess, and he talks about how he's on set with and running into production assistants, and they had no idea who he was, and he's like, no, I swear I'm on the film. And then it was Harold Ramis who was like, hey, don't worry about it, I gotcha, and he basically reassured him of everything, and everything was going to work out.
So I can talk a little bit on that too, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, not trying to interrupt you, Alex.
No, go for it.
I was just gonna say, in the documentary that I watched, Ernie Hudson's character originally appeared on like page 28 or 27, and then it got pushed back to like page 67.
Yep.
So a lot of the lines were cut from his character and given to Bill Murray, as you just said. And then one thing I wanted to mention too, real quick. A part of the craziness that came from Dan Aykroyd's original script was actually Dan Aykroyd's family history.
Yes.
His great grandfather, I believe, or his grandfather from the 1880s, was doing seances and writing like psychical research journals and all sorts of different things. So Dan Aykroyd had a history of all that stuff in his family, and that's heavily what inspired in Ghostbusters.
And you can actually purchase the book still.
Yeah,
Aykroyd
his dad's book. Peter Aykroyd actually wrote a book, like The History of Ghosts or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he wrote the foreword. But hey, at least Ernie Hudson's lines, they can't be as bad as what's his name, William Atherton. There's a story of him walking around New York, and a tour bus went by, and the bus, the tourists on the bus just yelled "Dickless" at him. So this is now the what he's had to live with since Ghostbusters.
And it's funny because that was completely improvised.
It's also, I guess, a little bit of trivia for that scene. They actually did a couple takes for like TV versions. I think there was a version for ABC when it was playing on TV. They changed the line to Ray calls him Wally Wick, which is like some sort of like groundhog or beaver or something. And when the mayor says, "Is this true?" and Venkman responds with, "It is, Your Honor. This man is some sort of woodland creature or something like that." And that's like the safe for TV version. The novel is less impressive. I think Ray calls him a jerk, and the mayor's like, "Is this true?" And Venkman's like, "Yes, Your Honor. This man is a jerk." But I think the novel kind of played down a lot of language in the film.
Well, and then also leading into production is we see Stay Puft. There's a lot of practical effects, and obviously you got to bring all this world alive. Well, they actually wanted ILM to come on board, but they were busy with Indiana Jones, who obviously George Lucas owns ILM, and they're going to help him with that movie. But they were able to get Richard Edlund, who was unhappy with ILM. And because of this movie, they were able to get $5 million into their budget to help him start his production company. Alex, you know more about that.
Yeah, Boss Films company, and they they were founded, I believe, in 1984, and the first two films they worked on were Ghostbusters and the sequel to 2001: Space Odyssey, and they're actually working on those films at the same time. But they worked on a couple more films. Unfortunately, I think around 1997 they went out of business because the as Richard Edlund said, it was just too difficult to kind of be an independent studio like that and keep up with these larger studios like ILM. But hey, it we got Ghostbusters, so
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and one last little fun fact, then we'll hop into the movie and kind of break it down. But the sound of the siren isn't a siren, but it's a leopard played backwards.
It's bizarre.
It's super bizarre. I just love little trivia like that. But I'll let Grayson or Matt, which one of you want to start off with our first scene of Ghostbusters?
I think it does a good job of just introducing the characters. It is really effective writing and acting from all parties involved. Because, Bill Murray as Peter Venkman obviously plays up the fact that he's just a skis ball, and all he's there for is just the opportunities that his position affords him. And then I think with the fact of showing that Egon, and then I forget Dan Aykroyd's character's name, but
Ray.
Yeah, Ray, that's right. But where I was going with that is that honestly, I'm just going to say the same thing twice in a longer way. It really set up the film really well, at least the characters, in a way that was effective storytelling without taking too long to show us who they were.
Right, yeah, we don't need a long montages like modern films tend to do. We can kind of get it, show some character traits, and then progress the story. Matt, do you have any remarks on the opening scene with him doing the card reading?
Was that the opening scene, or was it the library? No, I think it's straight up the library, and then they go to Venkman, because that's where Ray runs in. This could be it. This could be it.
Oh, that's right. The books are moving. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, either way, like the opening scene, with the library is pretty cool. You see the sweet old lady coming down just to restock some books, put stuff away, and get scared half out of her wits, to the point where, she's having panic attacks, and I saw it. But, like Grayson kind of touched on, you really see that Venkman's kind of like a sleazeball. He electrocutes the dude. He's like, I see some wavy lines. Unfortunately, it's just not your day. But I think the best part still is when the gum flies out of the dude's mouth. It's just like, dang. And then, with the girl, like, oh, I was just about ready to say, Thursday night, 8 o'clock, whatever the night was. But he was there for the opportunity. But yeah, I mean, you get introduced to the first three characters pretty good in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
I know one of the highlights for Sam was Egon just listening to the table in the library. Nick, what are your thoughts with the opening?
I mean, Grayson put it really eloquently there. It introduces all the characters and their kind of character arcs without saying too much. It does it very... Like, there's no oh, this is Venkman. He's this kind of person. You just see him be that way, which is great storytelling. My dad's favorite part of that was the fact of that scene is the fact that the guy actually gets it right, and then he still shocks him. Mm-hmm. And then I was noticing in the, because I also watched the Everything Wrong With for this film. I know I was noticing how nobody was asking him to show the cards outside of that first card. They just kind of trusted him, and I'm like, no, you should always be even in a real experiment, you still reveal the cards after each one.
Right, but that's the joke, though.
I get it. Nice yes and, Alex. Is that the joke? Is that what you want to explain it to me?
Yes, but should we talk about those cards, the Zinner cards?
Yeah, you want to talk about them?
I don't know much about them. I know they were used in the ESP experiments.
You are tarot lover number one. I mean, me and Grayson are anti-tarot. I don't know why you're on here.
I love tarot so much.
I know you got banned from Ecclesia when they were doing tarot.
Well, I more got yelled at because some lady, some shyster, was there with her
Charlatan.
Aura charlatan with her Aura camera, but there were like probably like 5 or 6 freaking tarot readers there.
Greyson, it looks so bad too. It
Cool
looks
playing
just like
cards.
a filter you could put on your photo on like Adobe.
I don't even know.
So dumb.
It's all the same.
It's dumb, huh?
Yeah.
We're all here for it.
And I got yelled at because I was legit curious. I'm like, I even asked her first. I was like, "How does this camera work?" She goes, I don't know." I was like, "Okay, that's fine." And so I kind of stood there and I was just observing the whole process. And like one of the women who was getting her reading was like, "Excuse me, can you please like just go away? This is like affecting my reading." And oh boy, I was like, "Whoa, I'm just standing here. We're in the bookstore right now. Like I can stand wherever I want." And then the poor lady that ran the place just kind of walked over and just like grabbed me by the shoulder and pulled me aside. She's like, "Don't worry about it." She's like, "Just let them have their fun." I was like, "Okay, fine."
Grayson had
Oh.
flashbacks to one of the jobs we were at when we just heard them talking about like star signs and stuff, and we had to go immediately take a walk.
Yeah,
It's funny you mentioned that.
Dark days.
Is that because one of the cards has a star on it?
No, there's actually a bit
Darn.
in the novel.
I thought you were.
We're not there yet, but there is actually a bit in the novel where astrology is mentioned, which I thought was kind of interesting. But I mean, we can touch on it more when we get there. But it's when Dana visits them after her experience, and Ray's like, "Oh, it could be past lives and all this stuff encroaching," and she laughs. She's like, "Well, I don't believe any of that." And then I think Egon says something like, "Oh, she goes, I didn't even know my sign." And like it's like Egon pulls his calculator out, starts like typing something. And he's like, "Oh, you're a Scorpio," and you're I wrote the exact notes down. It was so bizarre. She's a Scorpio with her moon in Leo and Aquarius rising. And I was like, why would Egon like just pull that out of nowhere? On a calculator, no less. But I thought it was kind of funny because I immediately thought of all this when she's like, "I don't believe any of that. I don't even know my star sign." And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome. That's nice to read."
Yeah, out of all the characters in Ghostbusters, I don't see Egon knowing the star signs.
No,
Now Ray,
Since he's a scientist.
Yeah, if Ray did it, then I'd be like, yeah, he believes everything. Just tell us something to Ray. It's true.
Yeah, he's got probably more of the open mind. At least in the film, he's just got this childlike wonder about everything. Or I guess it's probably why you can say he was open to possession in the second movie, but we're not there yet.
We're open to succubuses in this movie.
Oh, that too. Open to succubus. Yeah, which is also in the novel. It's actually deleted. It's a deleted
Something
scene.
Ray got sucked.
Yeah, because
That's
originally that was a full-blown scene, and then they put it in the montage.
They did as a dream and
building the world.
Yeah,
it's kind of weird to explain because back in the 80s, a lot of kids watch this movie and what?
Just like, "Mommy, what happened to that movie? What happened in that scene?
Why is that? What's that ghost do? Why is his belt coming undone?" So yeah.
What a time to be alive.
I mean, I could talk about that scene in the book because the thoughts that go through Ray's head are interesting.
Yes, if you wrote notes about this, please disclose.
Okay. So,
Nick has left the chat.
No, I just restarted my camera.
Okay. We were.
You're
moving again. You weren't possessed. We're good.
Yeah, like he has this idea. So because he goes to it's the scene takes place in the film when they're driving on the bridge and they have the whole like "Oh, do you believe in God?" Conversation. They're actually on the way to the old fort to bust the ghost, which is like this lady ghost, and so they get to the fort. And Ray sees this replica room of like an officer's quarters, complete with all the like uniforms, like replica furniture, and everything. And he's like, "Oh, this looks interesting. Let me go in." And so eventually, like he puts all this stuff on, and so it talks about how like he falls asleep in the bed, but he had his PK meter next to him, but he didn't notice it going off. And so like this, light behind the door shows up, and this like vapor like kind of comes in, and then like notices him in the bed, and it kind of it floats above him, and he wakes up and he sees like it's in the form of this lady. He's like frozen by fear, like paralyzed, but he's also at the same time like, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. So she's very weird. And then he like closes his eyes again, and he's like, it's all in his head, and he's thinking like, okay, whatever. And he opens his eyes again, and like he sees her like float towards the foot of the bed and disappears. And he's like, okay, well, this is fine. We can eventually catch this ghost. It's not a problem. But then he realizes that's when his pants are coming undone. And he has this thought where he's like, well, maybe we've been going about this whole ghost busting thing the wrong way. Like maybe there's some spirits that are beneficial. And he actually uses the word, he goes, maybe these spirits are friendly, beneficial, fantastic. And of course, at this point, that's when all this stuff's going on. And then the joke is later on, like Winston's still investigating the rest of this fort, and he walks by the room where Ray is in, and the door's closed, and he sees some light coming through the cracks of the door, and he hears noises and voices, and he's like, hey, you okay, man? And he's like, oh, later, man. So it doesn't really go into description what was going on, but yeah, it was very awkward. So Ray had a very interesting experience. I do wonder if he if you got any ectoplasmic residue on some body parts, maybe. he got slimed in his own way.
Holy long walk for a short glass of water. Are you saying that you spent the last 5 minutes just being like, I wonder if Ray got a ghost blowjob? Like, come on, cut to the point, man.
Well, we don't know that for sure.
Was applaudable, I'll be honest with you.
But no, it was just all the thoughts through his head. It was like, he's like, okay, well, maybe ghosts are beneficial. Just like, I don't want to go further with this because I don't know how explicit I can be on this.
Just get the whole channel banned. Happy 100th episode, no more.
But there is like a lot of that kind of questioning their methods in the book too, which is actually kind of cool. Especially with Winston. There is a bit later on in the book where there's a viewer actually attached to the containment unit, and when Winston's first hired on, he's watching everything, and he's like, this doesn't seem right, this is like kind of a prison for ghosts. But then he thinks, well, there's no alternative, like what are we supposed to do? And Ray has kind of the same thoughts, like, what are we supposed to do? But yeah, so that's a kind of interesting take. It's like a little questioning.
Oh, Nick, what's up?
Hey, we have another Nick here who just joined us after the wonder what if Ray got a blowjob from a ghost lady talk. So I guess you could say you missed the good part.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Joined a little too
Video's
late.
done.
Yeah,
it's all good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Well,
I just had a second to join because I'm teaching drum lessons tonight, so we're here at the studio. Nice. Sorry about that. I have everything plugged into speakers over here, so I got it turned down though. But how's everyone doing?
Pretty good.
Awesome.
So, Nick, while you got some time, what are your thoughts on Ghostbusters? We got to pivot away from Alex for a little bit. He got a little too into that last one.
Yep.
Yeah,
Long walk for a short glass of water there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, dude, Ghostbusters is such a classic movie. I would say that I would say that the original, like with most series, the original is truly the best, and I would say would be my favorite. But just that classic, Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, that classic trio is incredible, in my opinion. I'm not the biggest fan of the new movies, but the original is a legendary classic.
Is there any scenes that stick out to you?
Let's see. I'm trying to think of what would be my absolute favorite scene. Oh, gosh, I don't even know what scene would be my favorite. I think I honestly can't pick a favorite. I'm so sorry. I can't pick a favorite.
No, it's all good. We really haven't gotten too far. I know it says that we've been on for an hour, but we're only in the first scene still.
We're still like 10 minutes into the film. we got so sidetracked with Alex being like, I wonder if he got ectoplasm on his junk. Like,
yeah, I guess the he slimed me scene is probably my favorite scene. As a kid, I remember we used to rewind it just to see that again.
I would say that if we're going off of favorite scenes, my favorite scene is when Bill Murray is like, "Is it?" And he asks, "Like, is it true?" And he goes, "Yes, this man has no dick."
Yeah, dude,
I would do.
The comedy in the original is like way more on that adult humor level.
Yes.
All the new stuff seems just like so childish, in terms of the comparison, I guess. What do you guys think in terms of like, is Ghostbusters a kid's movie? I would say it's probably both in the original, right? Both a kid's and an adult movie.
Yeah, in the 80s sense of things. I mean, you look at the 80s kids movies, they were pretty dark, so.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a fan of the darker kids movies. It's gone much more the family friendly route.
Yeah, I mean they do actually talk about that in the commentary because there's a lot more adult oriented jokes in the first film, and then by the time they got to the sequel, they tone a lot of that stuff down. Like no one smokes anymore. It could be because it did get popular with the kids, and especially because of the cartoon. So they probably just wanted to kind of widen the appeal to more audiences. But I mean, it didn't get like too kiddie, I guess. But I don't know. The new films, yeah, I don't know, they're okay, but just whatever.
It's like more narrated from the kids' perspective in the new movies, versus the old movies.
Yeah.
This is like it's more of the traditional comic type of sense in terms of, I guess, like Keegan said, in the 80s realm of things, where a lot less politically correct humor and just more adult orientated jokes, slightly more sexual insinuations in jokes, or just something that adults would understand and that it would go right over a kid's head, but the kids still enjoy themselves watching the movie,
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Well, I would say also like the designs in the ghosts have gotten lighter, where you have like a decomposing taxi driver in this one.
Yeah.
And then in the new ones, they're like, even the villain of Frozen Empire, which, Grayson, have you seen Frozen Empire? Are you planning to see Frozen Empire?
I want to at some point, but not like soon.
Okay.
I just
Spoil
saw
away, please.
Empire, so that's why I was like having the comparison, because that's the newest movie versus now the original, the oldest movie, and the differences are quite stark and vast and drastic in terms of like the humor, the way that the jokes hit, kind of how quickly things are happening, how the pace of everything, and you can just see such a drastic dichotomy of differences between the original versus this newest one now. But yeah, thanks so much for having me, you guys. I'm so sorry. I wish I could be on more. I just wanted to join to say hi and see you guys. And I had not planned this properly because I actually have lessons that I have to teach tonight, but wanted to send my love your way. And I have a lesson in 1 minute, so I will talk to you guys at another time. And thanks so much for having me.
Nice.
See you,
Much
Nick.
love.
Should we continue with the first scene?
So which first scene?
Let's go back to the ghost blowjob scene real quick, Alex.
Whoa.
That's like halfway through the film.
All right, so No, let's at least progress a little bit. Matt, do you want to tell us about what they see when they go to the library, the three of them?
Well, starting off, Egon sees a table that he's fascinated with and investigates it to its fullest. But then after that, no, they head down to the basement where things got, all worked up, or they saw the apparition, and sure enough, they come across some books that are, I think, free stacked up on the middle of a walkway, aisle way, whatever you call that in the library. I don't know. At a grocery store, it's an aisle. But then they turn the corner, and then the I forget what they call them, card catalogs, I believe is what they were back in the day. Rolodexes.
Yeah, Dewey Decimal cards.
Yeah, the Dewey Decimal cards, but they're all pulled out all over the floor because they did scatter in the opening scene, and then there's some slime dripping down all of them, and that one had a lot of excitement there. And then I love how Egon doesn't do any of the dirty work. He's like, take a sample of that now. But then again, they keep their investigation going, and then they come across the apparition of the previous, probably librarian, because she looked like she was taking care of stuff and reminded them to, hey, be quiet, this is a area of quiet. So then Ray came up with the ingenious idea of like, all right, let's just get her. And then she turned into like horror face type librarian and scared the heck out of them, and they took off. They were gone. And then last you see really with the library scene is them all running out like a bunch of chickens that just saw some scariest thing on earth.
Should we talk
Greyson,
about the
well, I was going to see how Greyson thought about the first apparition encounter and the build up to it, I guess.
So I think with how the movie started was definitely a good taste tester to see if you were really going to be able to buy into this movie or not. And then once you got to like the actual, confirmation that there is going to be ghosts in this universe, that was a good build up to it. Because I mean, no matter how old you are, whenever you first see that scene of the old lady turning into just the ghoul after they get too loud, it scared it. What I'm building up to is it scared them, and it still scares me even to this day. It it's coming, but it's still, the buildup is still palpable because the atmosphere, the acting, and the actual tension is still there, no matter how old this movie gets.
As someone who just saw this movie for the first time yesterday, I gotta say that did not scare me at all. It's also because of the fact that practical effects from older films don't hold up as well as special effects to me.
Oh my gosh, kick him off right now.
That's heresy, buddy.
Yeah, are you saying 1080?
No, I mean I'd like to. I like practical effects for a lot of things, but to me it looked cheesy by the standards that I'm used to, which are now.
Nick, we gotta watch Metropolis sometime.
Jeez, man, this guy.
I will say this.
Go ahead.
I don't know if they use the same puppet.
Keep talking shit.
No. I don't know.
Hey, this is all playful. We're all friends. No one's mad.
Well, no, I don't know if they use the same puppet for Frozen Empire, but when they decided to squeeze that reference in Frozen Empire, I will say that looked cheesy because the way they motioned it. Because in the first film, it was a transition from human-looking ghost to monstrous beast. But in Frozen Empire, it charged Rey, and it had really floppy arms, and it looked really bad. So I guess in that case, yeah, the practical effect looked like crap because it just looked like a freaking rubber puppet. But in the first film, it was a pretty spooky moment. But at the same time, it's it also apparently calls the audiences to laugh, which kind of set them up for, okay, this is gonna be that kind of film. It's supposed to be scary, but I'm laughing after it because it's kind of ridiculous. But the other thing I was going to say is the puppet they used was actually going to be a lot scarier, and they had to tone it down. But they eventually either used part of it, of the original, for the film Fright Night, which is another Columbia Pictures production from 1985. Highly recommend that movie. Great movie about vampires.
What about Colin
I think
Farrell's?
Was that?
Can
No,
I
not
watch
Colin Farrell's.
Colin-
No,
Why?
no, not that one.
What about
One-
Twilight?
Sure, you can watch that one if you want.
Twilight's pretty scary, dude. There's
I mean-
vampires and Wolverines
There's
and
not Wolverine in
yes. Oh my god.
and werewolves.
no.
Werewolves
There,
is what I
there we
meant.
go. I was gonna say it's a much different movie if it's Robert Pattinson and Hugh Jackman just running around
Yeah,
shirtless.
it's
in that
Batman
film.
versus Wolverine. Okay, all right, make that movie Hollywood. Which actually, oh god, side note, the Amalgam comics, when Marvel and DC actually worked together to make Amalgam comics, they actually did fuse Batman and Wolverine together, called like Nightclaw. Anyway, that's a side whole nerd thing. But no,
White
they
Claw?
used part Nightclaw.
White Claw. There's no laws.
No,
with those
Night.
claws.
Nightclaw. No, they didn't discover. They didn't make it the drink name before that. Like 30 years before, whatever. Anyway, I've just lost my train of thought. The puppet Fright Night, the good Fright Night, not the Colin Farrell one, not Twilight, with Wolverines. Although that should be a bit now. But no, it was part of the puppet. From what I read, it's when I can't. I'm gonna spoil the movie if I explain it. Basically, there's at the end of the film, there's a creature effect, and they actually use
When
part
did this
original.
movie come out?
Fright Night,
Yeah, the one that you're about to spoil.
1985.
Okay, go ahead and spoil it. It was
So-
it was 39 years ago.
So the main baddie,
It's almost 40.
That's why I
Jerry-
said 39.
Jerry Dandridge. He plays the vampire. It's the same guy. What's his name? Sarandon. He was in Princess Bride. Anyway, he transforms into a bat, but like he gets killed at the same time by the main character, Chris Sarandon. That's his name. He gets killed at the same time while he's transforming, and like part of the skull of the bat was actually part of the original puppet for the library ghost. And it was really spooky. Also, Friday Night's awesome movie.
Yeah, it is actually a good movie. Someday we'll talk about it.
Someday.
And while we're talking about it, we'll actually talk Ghostbusters.
I was just gonna say, like, are we gonna? Is it? We might be on a 24-hour stream here.
Yeah, just like why
it's
didn't you guys
taking
come
Alex-
into work?
It's taking Alex 30 minutes to describe every scene.
Yeah, they're just like, hey, the three of you didn't show up to work. I'm like, hey, we were having a really good live stream. I couldn't pass. it up.
We were still discussing scene number 17 in Ghostbusters.
I'll stop talking for the rest of the stream.
No, you're fine. Just
It's a deep dive. We're supposed to get deep into the movie. It's the 100th episode. So, if you want to go on for 24 hours, I might go to bed, though. You can keep going. I'll let it record.
we're all sleeping on stream, and Alex is sitting there like, no, yeah, but like going back to that scene where Dan Aykroyd saw the ghost lady. Like it's highly suggested that he got some ectoplasm down there.
It wasn't explicit in the book, but the book does go into a lot of detail about how there's a lot of ectoplasmic residue, more than it is in the film. So I'm like, okay, let me just put two and two together. That's my conclusion. I mean, Peter got slimed.
All right, so Matt,
for far less. Yeah, I get it.
Matt, to move us on to scene 2.
So sorry.
Do you want to tell the audience what happens after this encounter to the three of them and their situation with the college?
Well, they get back, and the dean is packing up all their stuff and just saying, you know what, we aren't going to be paying this space anymore for you guys, and there's just no interest anymore from the college, and pretty much kicked them out and said, sayonara.
Which I just want to say, they were filming the encounter, correct?
We would
They
believe
were-
so. They had a camera, but I never saw it in their hand actually filming. They were just running with it. I don't know.
I mean, I guess it's better than another Ghostbusters film we won't talk about, where they actually had the footage and people are like, fake.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
And,
see, that's the funny thing is they never showed them rewatching the footage or anything like that, or showing people like, no, Dean, look, we just came across this today. Like, let us stay here. It's real. No, they took it in and were like, all right, we'll leave. And
Well, that's the thing.
They begged Ray for his grandma's stock money.
Well, hey, they at least we've arrived at the firehouse, guys. I know this is like 5 minutes into the film, an hour and 12 minutes into a podcast.
You're welcome.
Hey, if you guys want to watch Ghostbusters live and use this as a commentary, just watch it at like 1/50th speed.
Yeah.
They almost done with the movie if they watched it at normal speed.
Actually moves like an hour and 45. So yeah. He's
Yeah, and there would be less than a half hour left. Oh yeah, so it's actually an hour and 45 minutes. We're an hour and 20 into this.
So before we get to the firehouse, I just wanted to touch on the whole filming of the ghost thing. I think it was a movie goof, but if you go back and watch it, when they're actually talking about how, all the calculations we got, we can actually really bust some heads in a spiritual sense. You can see the tape deck that Ray is carrying that's connected to the camera. There's no tape inside. So I don't know if that was a movie goof or, a reason why they didn't have any proof for the Dean.
Oh, and looks like David, our buddy from Abnormal Voyages, is on.
I also want to touch on one thing real quick before we go and get all technical about why they don't have footage as well. The movie
It's never
was
explained, honestly.
The movie was rushed. It had a little
It's
over
true.
a year to have the script finalized, to be cast, and to also be filmed. So maybe, I don't know.
No,
That
that's
might
the thing
mean
too.
something.
And that's the thing too, because if you read all about how they rushed this out and all this, is like, how did this movie even get made? How was it even successful? And all of that, and watching it now, it's like, that's incredible.
I mean, the first audience to watch it said it sucked.
That's true.
The first test audience was like, this is terrible. And Coca-Cola, because I think, was it Coca-Cola owned everything at the time?
Yep,
Yeah,
Coca-Cola
Coke,
owned Columbia Pictures.
Yeah, they were like, we're gonna lose everything.
Shout out to
Whoa.
Columbia
Whoa,
Pictures
whoa,
here.
whoa,
They don't own them anymore.
Whoa.
David
What
knows
else
we
got
can
Marvel?
only have
We
McDonald's
do
sponsorships
not
on here,
show brands on here.
unless it's
Right,
McDonald's.
I actually have some bad news on that front. The McDonald's wasn't coming through, so I've actually switched. Chick-fil-A is offering me a decent amount now, so I have to give them a good plug whenever I'm on. I'm sorry, just
Chick-fil-A sauce.
Have them open
Alex.
up on Sundays, and I'll consider.
You want some Chick-fil-A sauce?
So, David, you've joined. We are an hour and 14 minutes in, and you've only missed the opening scene.
that sounds about right.
Yeah, we just got past the whole getter, and now they're
getting the firehouse.
Getting the firehouse.
Okay.
We also had a super long tangent on from Alex on
It
whether or
wasn't
not
super long.
it was. I played the theme music for Jeopardy. You were taking that long because you were flipping through your notes. He was flipping through his notes. You could hear the paper.
No, that was
Hang
the
on,
library
hang on.
ghost going
It's
through.
here
the
somewhere.
notes.
It's here somewhere. Blowjob scene right here.
But I was referencing the novel. Whatever. Shut up.
We're not even talking about the novel. We're talking about the movie.
I'm giving my commentary on the film by the differences of what was in the novel.
Grayson,
Because it actually
is this going to give the drinker a run for his money on his shows, you think?
No, it's not. I want to be honest with you. There's at least some structure to the drinker shows. I'm kidding. No, it's I'm here for the ride, boys. I'm just enjoying all this while it happens live.
Okay, I don't want
I need a
to. I don't
drink
want to
if we're
open
gonna
up a
continue at this
whole
pace.
barrel here, but very briefly, I wasn't aware there even was a novelization. Is that
Oh yeah.
It was written after the movie came out, I'm pretty sure.
okay?
Yeah.
So-
It was.
Is it pretty similar to the movie? Is the
Nope, apparently not. There's a lot of differences, especially about this blowjob scene. It's
well,
apparently
that's probably
more
like 3
detailed,
chapters long.
and
now,
apparently
right?
it leaves the imagination open
wasn't.
for whether or not Ray
one
got
chapter.
ectoplasm on his junk.
All right, so Alex, why don't you explain the novel and what it was for David?
Oh my
But
god!
like briefly,
So-
we don't need another hour.
Briefly.
about it.
Okay, so there was a novelization that was written after the film came out.
Okay.
It incorporates a lot of the deleted scenes from the film. I don't know what script it was based off of. Most likely, maybe the shooting script or with a combination of maybe an earlier draft. But it kind of goes
Fair.
into a little bit of detail of like the backstory of the characters. Like you learn about all the Ghostbusters backstories and their family and stuff, and kind of get more in their head and all that.
Okay.
But that's about it. It's kind of cool.
Did they make
yeah.
one of any of the other movies, or was it just the first one?
No, there's one for the second one. I've not read it yet, but
Okay.
yeah, this is the omnibus that they released recently.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah, they originally came out, I think, obviously in the 80s. It's called the Ghostbusters, the Spooktacular Special. No, what was it?
So
The
is it
Supernatural
generally
Spectacular.
just overall the same stories, just like kind of some more details and scenes?
Pretty much?
Is
Yeah.
there any drastic? Okay.
There's not really any drastic changes. Like most of the stuff is very minor. That's why I have a whole freaking half a pad of notes here. It's just
But
more details and character names and stuff.
Is it minor in the sense of how, like, say, Obi-Wan and Padme's relationship was in Star Wars 3 in the novel, where it's like being implied by Palpatine that they're having an affair, and that's why Anakin gets so mad at the end? Because you said the relationship is different between Dana and Venkman, right?
It's not really that different.
But
You
fleshed
just kinda,
out.
It's fleshed out. You understand why she actually has an interest in him, because she's apparently dated a bunch of stiffs before. But Peter's different because he's charismatic and funny, and she's like, he's not my type, but there's something about him, and he just kind of like, I guess,
He's not my type, but he's a type.
Sure, yeah. No, he kind of just like whittles her down essentially, and she's like, okay, yeah, no, this guy's actually pretty charming, and
Great life lesson.
Yeah, don't write off the one guy too soon.
There you
Also,
go.
especially the one guy who's investigating your paranormal case.
Especially the
Maybe-
one guy
maybe let
who's
him finish
gone
the
into
case
a 15-minute
before,
rant on
kicking
whether
him
or not this guy got a blowjob from a ghost.
Whoa, Nick.
So
Not-
okay, so about the blowjob.
Yes, let's spend another. Oh my god!
If I have to hold on, I just heard y'all say y'all were arguing about if he got ectoplasm there or not.
No, hang on. We weren't.
If he
We
did,
weren't arguing anything. It was all Alex being like, I don't know. I don't know how detailed I can get into this. I think
my question is just if there was ectoplasm, are we sure it stopped at that? I feel like there may have been, it might have kept going.
You're saying ghost babies?
I didn't get into that part. Okay,
if
so
he-
let me
Like,
know.
I was holding back
Nick.
on saying that for a while, to be honest with
And
you.
no matter what part, what happened, if he finished, where did it go?
Ghost babies! Ray spin to
No,
find out.
no, let's stop discussing. We're supposed to be discussing Ghostbusters, the 1980s.
Folks, you came here for a Ghostbusters deep dive. You get a Ghostbusters blowjob. Merry Christmas.
I'm sorry, I heard we were just talking about ghost busting with like a space between them. I
Ghost
apologize.
busting.
Busted makes me feel
Yeah,
good.
that's all right. So I misread it. That's my bad. Good for Ray. I'm glad to hear his proton gun's not lacking.
Still
My
shoots
parents-
up those proton beams.
As
My
long
parents-
as he's
actually-
not crossing the streams, whatever.
Man, my
So,
parents are
that's
gonna be
another
so
thing,
proud
too.
of me. I went to college to discuss Ghostbusters on the podcast, and they even helped me research this by showing me the movie, showing me it, and then showing me the documentary on Netflix. And I'm not even gonna send them this episode. Oh man.
Well, at least the pivot. You're talking about the equipment. There is some changes in the book about the equipment. I think it's probably more with some of the original ideas, because they actually talk about how they have to actually charge their equipment. And during their first bust, I don't want to get into too much detail. We can get there when we get to there in the hotel scene. But their equipment is like finite with energy, as opposed to later on in the sequel where
It's just
Peter
good to go
asks,
whenever.
sorry. Yeah, does our equipment still work? And Egon says, "Oh, the power cells have a half-life of 5,000 years." But in the novelization, it's very limited, which makes sense because in the film, when they finally bust Slimer, and they're talking about how much they're going to invoice the guy, and he says, "Well, we got special for proton charging and storage of the beast."
Right.
And it's like, proton charging, what? So that was a thing in the at least in the
I
novel.
have to assume they probably
script it was.
changed it because they were like, we got to keep writing scenes like plot holes of.
It's too
Wait,
technical.
when did you charge it? They got that ghost. Why?
Yeah.
Because somebody would.
I don't have enough charge. Yeah, so it's like it's just to simplify it for sure.
But
it
I
was
think
a
it's probably
fascinating
the kind of
detail.
the same thing how James Cameron first changed it to Spider-Man having his body makes the webbing instead of doing all the you got to have the fluid.
And the mating dance that he was going to do on the bridge.
We'll get to for those who are watching still. We'll get to the scene that Alex was talking about in 4 business days. Please join us then to discuss the next scene.
If you're available in June, we're gonna get.
We have an opening on June 15th.
It's been an hour and a half, and we've still only discussed 3 scenes.
We can.
Wait,
we
I
can
thought this
expedite
was exclusively about Afterlife. Was that not?
No, 2016. Obviously, answered the call.
Good. Thank God.
Yeah, I know, right?
I got a Melissa McCarthy mask. Hold on, let me.
Yeah, that's why it's taking so long. I'm channeling my Melissa McCarthy, and I'm just just word vomiting constantly and improving.
For perspective, Gozer has made their first appearance at this timestamp right now. Just for perspective.
So what you're saying is this cannot be commentary for the movie?
No.
We're
Oh my
so
God.
a tad off timeline right now.
If this was us commenting
But I
on the
love
movie,
it. I'm
we
here for it. This is
would have
great.
paused we would have paused and discussed every single detail. Well, you see, the table is actually a dark brown because they originally had.
There's already a channel that does that. It's called EFAP.
So some people thought that it was mahogany, but actually,
Can we just get back on topic here? Because for me, even too, this is it was fun, but now let's keep the flow going. Let's get back on. Let's get on this track rolling, boys.
All right.
Please.
With the wise words of Greyson, we are moving on to the hotel scene. We kind of brought it up with the Slimer, who the cast, especially Aykroyd, wanted them to model after Belushi, who had obviously passed away. But the department was like, well, we got 5 hours, so come back. And they came back and they're like, yeah, we changed it. And they're like, perfect. And they
did it.
Nothing.
They changed nothing.
The guy in the Netflix documentary, he's like, I kind of lied and said I did. So he just kept the original idea because they gave it. He had spent I think 3 days on the design, and then he told him the night before the meeting with the rest of the crew that he needed to model it after John Belushi. And he's like, okay, and then he lied and did.
So people are just like, oh, he's fat. Yeah, that's him.
Just hot dogs are falling out of his mouth.
I guess, yeah. They're like,
totally
oh, yeah,
Animal House. Yeah.
I see Belushi in that. Let's go.
Yeah, it was very, very much modeled on his character Bluto from Animal House. But there was some documentary where the puppeteers were talking about how they did kind of watch it and watch his facial expressions and mannerisms, and they tried to recreate that. But obviously, for the creators, the sculptors of Slimer, yeah, they were just like, oh, that's totally John Belushi. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, I can totally see it. It is.
Well, Slimer is not his original name, right?
Correct. It's Onion Head.
How did that not catch on?
Yeah, right. Even though he's described as being a potato, essentially. So take your pick.
Yeah, so they capture Belushi, Slimer, Onion Head, whatever we want to call it.
They
And
they wanted to call him Potato Head, but Toy Story and almost 10 years almost had it.
Yeah, Back to the Future is a real movie. It's actually tells the story of how Toy Story's creators went back in time to take back their name of Potato Head.
They copyrighted it. They were like, we got to go back.
Go back in time.
Give
But
us that
There's
ghost
also a
name.
connection there. Never mind. I'm gonna derail this. Sorry. With all these.
No, by all
stupid
means,
facts.
go ahead.
Well, you're talking about Back to the Future. Like Huey Lewis had
Nope,
two
never mind.
songs
Continue
featured
going
in the
on
film.
with Ghostbusters.
No,
Alex, please enlighten us. I want to hear this.
no, this is actually relevant.
Don't need money.
Yeah, I want to hear this. Alex,
Don't
please,
take
share with
fame.
us.
So
We're already here. Let's just keep going.
So yeah, speaking of Back to the Future, Huey Lewis was actually approached to do the theme for Ghostbusters, but he turned it down. But obviously, he went on eventually to do Back to the Future. Until they actually approached some other artists too, and I can't remember who they were, but they landed on Ray Parker Jr. And apparently, the story goes that he was given not really a rough cut, but just kind of like a cobble of scenes put together. And Ivan Reitman was like, do a theme for us. And he was watching it, and he got this inspiration because he got to the part where they showed the commercial from the film. He's like, oh, I need to be like making a jingle because these guys are like plumbers. That's where he came with the whole "who you gonna call." And apparently there was some like music on this footage too, and apparently the music on that footage was parts of Huey Lewis's "I Want a New Drug." And so later on, obviously, there was a lawsuit with Huey Lewis and Ray Parker Jr. They settled out of court, whatever. So that might be why Ghostbusters and Huey Lewis's "I Want a New Drug" are similar in sound.
That's also why he didn't turn down Back to the Future, because he's like, I'm not having that happen again.
Yeah.
So, speaking of Slimer, I don't know if you guys already got into this. If so, we don't need to rediscuss it.
Probably not.
But
Probably not.
have we talked about if there was any reasoning or why they decided to go with Ghost looking so non-human in a lot of senses? How it wasn't kind of the classic ghost of what we think of now as like the spirit of a dead person, just like a translucent person, and doing all these kind of crazy creature type ghosts.
That's actually a good question.
Didn't
Dan
Aykroyd?
We haven't gotten into that.
No,
we haven't really gotten into that. But to kind of also point out the ghost of the librarian, which we have talked on.
She's humanoid.
That was humanoid
Until she does like her change.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
But I mean, that
was
was still before Slimer was introduced in the film.
Right, because she's kind of the first. That's the first ghost we really see.
But yeah,
Well,
you're
Dan
right. Every
Aykroyd-
ghost after that is kind of
Yeah.
a creature.
Well, Dan Aykroyd kind of talked about it like for the second movie, like with the like Spinelli brothers or whatever the name of those guys are called. It's like
It kind of changes
For
like what
them-
they did in life, right?
it was essentially their spiritual ethereal essence is what they were trying to convey through it was basically adult speak for saying we wanted to sell toys to kids, so that's why we did it.
And I also wonder if because of the fact that they were looking at it as kind of a comedy, I wonder if they were like, hey, we can make them kind of goofy looking, and just kind of stand out. I just always thought that was interesting because their take is always very different than what classic Ghost were up till that point.
Like you talking about like not the bed sheet with the two eye holes cut out.
Yeah, or not just like, oh, it's a person, but I can see through them.
Right.
That's kind of what. Besides that, it was like zombies or monsters, but actual ghosts were just humans. So I think Ghostbusters is kind of the first that really gave it so much character into what their ghosts were, especially in a live action setting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely.
Well, it's like we talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but I think a lot of Dan Aykroyd's like spiritualistic family history kind of just brought in the desire to like give essentially ghosts and the demons of the ghost realm essentially like more of a personable and like different appearance other than like the ghost trick that was prevalent throughout the 30s to the 50s with creating that translucent effect. So it was definitely a step out from what
using
as
like
you were
Pepper's
saying
ghost
like
effect and stuff like that.
Yeah, Pepper's ghost effect.
Yeah.
I will say, I imagine a lot of what made those ghosts appearance the way they were was because of the fact that the special effects studio that was made for this film had just gotten off projects like Star Wars and Indiana Jones.
It totally had to have affected it. Yeah. I mean, like you said, they saw how many toys Star Wars characters could sell just by being a goofy little droid or alien. They're like, how do we do that?
I do know that part of
Eating hot dogs, just a green ghost eating tons of hot dogs.
Yep. I do know part of what helps the film too for creature design was Sigourney Weaver said that she should transform into a dog at one point, and actually did like the motion in front of like one of the writers, and then they wrote the scene in afterwards.
They're like, hey, she wants to do it. Let's go.
Yeah, they're like, oh, actually, it kind of works. So let's go ahead. The guy in the Netflix documentary even mentioned, he's like, I'm not going to touch on other feelings that made me feel, but I was like, yeah, let's go ahead and do this.
Well, it's funny too because she was actually kind of expecting to be like in a dog costume.
That's funny.
Yeah. So it's like she didn't know.
Just reimagine those scenes, but they're like mascot dog costumes.
It's just The Shining all over again.
You know, and if we're just doing just this one right now, we don't need to get into this, but I always think it's really interesting too that nobody's really been able to duplicate this kind of success with a ghost, you know, heavy story comedy, something that's become such a cultural touchstone. Like even now, you know, going on 50 years later almost, like it's been quite a while. And they're still the number one and kind of only name. If you're like, oh, what's kind of like a paranormal comedy, you know, like Ghost, it's Ghostbusters. So they did something right.
Definitely.
It's definitely not Twilight. Twilight's way too scary.
We're going to move past this before we get derailed again. What happens
after the hotel scene? By the way, at this time stamp in the movie is almost over.
Just for those who are using us as commentary, we apologize. We went too in depth.
You know what? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that pricing. Where do you think they came up with like, all right, this is how much we're going to charge to get rid of a ghost? Do you think they had like, okay, if there's more than one ghost, it's going to be this price. If it's a difficult capture, if you get slimed, like how many variables goes into charging for getting rid of a ghost?
I do like Venkman when he's like, no fee is too big.
Yeah. No, I don't think that was planned. Obviously, it was not discussed. I'm sure if you actually watch the film, he looks over at Egon, and Egon's like actually motioning on his face with how much to charge. And he's like, that's 4,000 for proton charging and storage of the beast. And then he's like, looks back to Egon, he does this. And he's like, and an extra 1,000 for, what I can't remember what else it was. He's like, 5,000, I won't pay it. So I think it was,
and they're like, okay, we'll put it back.
Yeah, exactly. I think they didn't know how much to charge for a job like that. This was their first job, but obviously they're just trying to. Do you think it was
because they weren't totally sure that it was going to work?
Oh, probably, yeah. They're like, well,
they like didn't expect it to where they're like, we'll see.
You gotta also go. If we're touching on that, we also have to go back to the very beginning of the film where you set up Venkman's character as kind of a scam artist, kind of a sleazy guy.
Yeah. Right, with the ESP stuff and everything.
Side note here, there's a bit in the book, in the novelization, where he talks about how during his summers in college, he was actually a carnival barker. So he was a carny. And so that's why he's so charismatic and he can actually, try and fool people. I was like, that's actually a really cool addition to his character.
That's a really good backstory. Like, helps things make a little sense.
Cool.
All right, so we'll finally move to the fridge scene with Dana, and the first whisperings of Zool. Grayson, do you want to discuss this scene?
I'm recapping because I am a little sleep deprived right now, but
movie's almost over, bud. If that's any help,
we can ask Matt.
We're like jumping everything. We're like going.
We went straight from the hotel to the fridge.
Yeah, so we're okay. So we're jumping over Peck. We're jumping over everything. Okay, so I think with that scene, it was really good special effects. I forget exactly how. I know I've watched like documentaries on how they did the egg scene, but I thought like wasn't it like they popped out and like one side was super heated to fry the eggs, but they like tried to do something to make it look where it wasn't hot or something like that, for the eggs to actually cook, or I can't remember, but I think it's a good scene to build up the tension. I mean, I feel like with where we are in the film, it builds up Gozer to a higher point and definitely gives the gravitas that could be, it's the building point to a good payoff is essentially what I'm saying.
Oh, we talked a little bit about that. I thought it was kind of funny, the eggs were cooking, but the marshmallows right next to the eggs in the package didn't melt at all, because I'm pretty sure at a cooking temp that would cause eggs to start to fry, you would at least see the marshmallows maybe start turning into goo or something like that, or some sort of mush. And
Alex is shuffling papers. We might find out.
man,
No,
Jesus,
I just
sorry.
picked
Take
up a
it,
receipt
please.
off the floor,
Oh.
but I do have an explanation.
Dang, was that like a CVS receipt? That sounded like it was a lot of paper.
Actually, it was a Rock Liquors receipt.
I think, just not in terms of story wise, but from a cinematography standpoint, I think it's great how many special effects like this one here really still hold up. Like it doesn't take you out of the movie. You still okay, you're still with it watching this, even with how much more advanced we are now. The practical effects were fantastic in the movie.
Yeah,
There was a lot of practical effects, only very few optical stuff, especially when it came to the stop motion of the pterodogs. But
yeah, they did awesome.
Yeah, a lot of practical stuff. So the way they did that, there was actually just a small portion of the countertop that was heated, and there were air tubes or whatever underneath the counter. That's what popped the eggs out. And once they landed on that heated surface, that's why they cooked, and that's why the marshmallows didn't melt or anything. It was just a specific surface. But also, according to novelization, only the eggs cooked. Only the eggs were affected, and the surface was actually cold. So that was a interesting detail.
I like more that the guy that wrote the novelization was like, okay, people need to know the surface was cold. Only the eggs were affected.
Well, that actually,
I get it. They get it in your head, yeah. But it's just really funny that he's like, they got to know, not the marshmallows, the eggs.
Not the lettuce next to it either.
No, still cool as, yep.
Well, Grayson, do you want to talk about Peck? And how, for some reason, the EPA is in charge of ghosts. I don't know why.
Oh, shut these all off. I mean, I wasn't really dying to talk about Peck, but I mean, I think it was a really good way to introduce him. Bureaucrat who's just trying to build up his career. I thought it was good. Wasn't it the same point where they introduce Ernie Hudson's character too?
Yeah, I think
right
he's in it,
that,
and then Peck's right after, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's he responds to the ad, and he shows up literally right after that. With the iconic line of "That's one big Twinkie."
Yeah. Anyway, no. He shows up with the iconic line of, "If there's a paycheck in it, I'll believe whatever you tell me to."
Yeah, that's right. Because the big Twinkie doesn't come up until later. Again, it's effective storytelling. They get really quickly to Peck's a douche, and you kind of just root against him and hope that he fails.
I mean, it's the 80s, and all the bad guys were just bureaucrats. So
I don't understand how he still had a job and career after everything that happened. He was so mayor. In the wrong. I know, it was so conclusively proven. This dude had no clue what was happening, and everybody was still I guess it just proves that, like real life, politicians just fail upwards.
I mean, I was just gonna say Alex's comment of, "Oh yeah, it's the 1980s. A bureaucrat is." I'm pretty sure it's still the same now. Anybody in office is a villain these days.
Oh, I'm
sorry. My mind is still so worn out from the tangents that Alex has gone on.
Well, he's just making sure we get a nice, thorough deep dive.
You knew what you were getting yourself into.
Are we talking about how Peck? How his story kind of continued throughout the Ghostbusters video game that was going to be the script for Ghostbusters 3?
Thank you for mentioning that. Well,
Nick is shaking his head in disapproval.
I just want to remind everybody that my only exposure to Ghostbusters has been this film. So you all are sitting here referencing Afterlife and the video games and the sequels, and I'm I have no dog to stick.
It's okay.
Hello, you never saw Ghostbusters 2?
I've never seen a single Ghostbusters other than the first one now. And I just saw it for the first time.
I like
Nick,
that.
all I can tell you is this: Angry Jelly.
So, anyways,
Oh.
after Walter Peck,
Segue.
let's get into.
So actually, yeah. Let me touch on Walter Peck real quick because he was actually supposed to be in the second film. They're going to bring him back, but I think he was too busy or something, and that's why they made a new character for what's his face? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking. The mayor's aide.
oh, okay. That was going to be his role, kind of.
Yeah.
Oh, the dude played by the. I know who you're talking about, but I don't remember the dude's name.
I can't
Voiced
either.
by
and I-
Max Van Sydow or whatever.
no, that's Vigo.
Oh, no,
No,
that's the-
it's
that's the
wasn't it the dude that was
Kurt Fuller.
Rob Lowe's? It was like the guy that was Rob Lowe's aide in Wayne's World, right?
I think so.
Hey, real quick.
Yes, he
there
was.
is-
Yeah, he was in Wayne's World. Also, he's in No Holds Barred. Deep dive into that later. Hulk Hogan, brother. No, so basically he's the mayor's aide. He's like the new kind of like bureaucrat stick in the mud to keep the Ghostbusters from doing what they're doing, but because they could get William Atherton back to play Peck, but obviously he came back for the Vigi game. Yeah.
What did you just say?
The
Vigi game.
God dang Vigi games.
Okay.
Oh,
Now, since Nick's only seen one, this
Sure.
won't really mean as much to him, but I personally think when it comes to Ghostbusters 2, I don't think Dana really should have been a part of it. I don't think it should have centered on her as much. I get like her story in the first one, Let It Go, that should have come back like in 3. Have something totally different for 2, and then kind of circle.
Uh-oh, David froze.
Uh-oh. Oh,
Dana
no.
got him.
Oh.
Hey,
I just don't
David-
think it was as popular
David,
because of,
you froze Dana. Dana got you for a while there.
She did.
well, then I'm not supposed to say it. She got me. I'm wrong.
I
never
think
know what he
Ghostbusters
said.
2 should have focused more on the Titanic finally making it to New York after all those years.
Yeah. And then
That would have
also-
been such a good script.
And then, finally making it to Mexico, where it was also transporting massive amounts of mayonnaise before it was supposed to sink. And then that would be commemorated by Cinco de Mayo.
I gotta go. Thanks. This has been great.
Would you look at the time? Oh, gotta get
that
on
was,
out of
yep.
here.
This was fun. Thanks for the invitation, guys. Let's maybe never do it again.
Well,
All
I
right.
feel like a really bad pain in my stomach all of a sudden, guys. I gotta get out of here.
Hey, Keegan, call me back when next time we're doing Spider-Man, okay? Oh my god.
So Spider
Oh, by the way,
blowjobs.
hang
If
on,
he would've
hang on.
been-
By the way, hang on, David. Sorry, I'm not trying to cut you off. For those that
No,
are
please.
wondering, the movie has been over for almost 10 minutes at this point in this deep dive. So if you've been using us for commentary, you're doing it wrong.
Well,
We're
now it's
doing
time
it
to just
right.
ride this out. Let's go.
Yes,
Alright, so where
please.
were
I
we?
can't wait.
The
I
apartment
can't
scene,
wait
the
to this
refrigerator.
for tomorrow.
Yeah,
I can talk
we're all
about
gonna
this
have to
all
call in
night.
sick because we're gonna still be going.
All right. Let's
Okay,
jump to
so-
Keymaster Gatekeeper. All that. Let's go to that.
Well, I
That's not
think
an
first.
innuendo at all.
Well, yeah, definitely not. First,
Alex,
Are
we
you
please
my
stop saying it
gatekeeper?
like that.
All right. First, though, I think we should talk about when Venkman goes to the apartment and he's looking around. He opens the fridge and it's just like nothing.
Is that where we're at now?
That's where I chose for us to be at.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's
Just-
like
Otherwise,
30 minutes
there's-
already into the
There's
film.
this
Talk
montage scene, Nick, we can get to if you'd like.
What happens
get-
in the montage? Can you kill it like some key
we'll
scenes?
get there eventually.
All right.
Like just maybe Dan
Busting
Aykroyd's part
makes
of
me
that.
curious.
Is there anything? Does he do anything cool in the scenes?
In the montage?
Yeah.
I mean, they run around.
Oh, is that all he does? He just runs
He
around.
holds a trap up in like Chinatown, and he's like, there's a guy
I
who's
feel
trying
like
to
there
like
was
exchange.
something. Oh, what? It was like a little
chicken.
more relaxing, maybe. Like he has an interaction with a ghost. I don't think he catches the ghost though. If anything, kind of caught him.
Okay.
Caught
all
something.
right, Okay.
Do you remember? I can't quite. Do you remember what it was, Alex?
I just now caught on because I forgot that was part of the montage. But yeah, I was trying not to think about it.
I mean, a good ghost hunter's never caught with his pants down. Am I right?
Well, he was technically dreaming about it, according to
It
the
was
film.
quite a dream.
It was quite the dream.
So next on the docket is there's something called the Gatekeeper and the Keymaster. Alex, can you describe what those are and their importance to Gozer?
They're the guardians of Gozer. There might be some innuendos there. Also, someone did make the correlation of, for a guy who eventually becomes possessed by the Keymaster, he sure does get locked out of his apartment a lot. Oh, cut that. Oh my gosh. Sure.
Nope, we're not cutting any of this, pal.
Shut up.
This is all going in.
We'll do it live.
Also, isn't the master's name Zool?
No, Vince Clortho. Vince Clortho is the Keymaster of Gozer. Zool
Yeah,
is the
Zool's
No,
the
not the Keymaster. Yeah, not the Keymaster.
No, the gatekeeper
demon,
is Zool.
Big bad.
Okay,
Zool.
so
No, Gozer
No,
is
There
the
is.
big bad.
Gozer.
there's tons of innuendo, of course, in this. Did they bang?
It's
You know what?
implied.
We're gonna.
But in the
I
novel,
feel like
in
it's
the novel,
very heavily implied.
If
it doesn't say anything in the novel.
everything, if the
It just- it
guys
just-
from if the guys from Cinema Sins watch this, they're gonna be very happy because they mentioned that in their video. They're like, are we not gonna talk about the fact that they bang? And here we are
Like,
talking about it.
They absolutely
It's-
had to. Do you think they remembered it after
No.
everything happened? Do you think they were like, hold on, I seem to remember
but
you just kind of barged into my apartment?
There is a deleted scene where Lewis is like, "Did we?" And Dana's like, "No, we didn't, Lewis." But in the novel, they don't remember either. But Lewis was like, "I swear I didn't touch you," and it got kind of weird.
So
but
what
also
if
in the
they
novel,
did? And the baby in the second one is from that.
oh shoot,
Well, technically, Peter did bang
Oh,
Dana
baby.
before the
Did
Keymaster
he?
got there. Yeah. Are you my Keymaster? Shuts the door, opens it again, then he goes, yes, I am.
but he drugs her to make her pass out because he realizes that she's possessed and like, yeah.
Yeah, I think
Which
Ivan
was
said the
it?
baby's actually the from the musician we see at the beginning with her.
That's the most accepted theory, because she ends up marrying him and having a child with him. But even though according to the second movie they did get together after this movie and they broke up, I don't know, whatever, doesn't matter.
So did Peter just have a really sad life after the second movie?
I don't know.
I think they took out some Bill Murray hate on him pretty aggressively in that script, I'll be honest.
I think they did.
Possibly.
Possibly. Venkman got the shaft.
Yeah. But I will say this, I know we're not there yet, but when he calls the firehouse, whatever, he says I knocked her up with whatever, however many cc's of Thorazine. Everyone's like, why does he have Thorazine? Oh my god. In the novel, he looks around to see if she has Valium, because he's like, well, she's an artist, she's got to have Valium somewhere, which makes way more sense. It's also
Especially
80s,
for that
of
time
course.
period.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think that should have stayed in the film, because I think Thorazine was prescription based at this point still. So it's like, why? But then it's like, well, he's a doctor. He's got his PhD, but he's not
Well,
that kind of doctor.
Yeah, and I heard at one point it was
Let's
supposed to be
just-
Ray's too, that he got it from Ray
Okay.
because Ray
mean,
had
that
like
kinda makes
ADHD or something, or ADD, whatever they called it.
I think we kind of are seeing why they cut it out, because we're still talking about it when it was just, she's knocked out, Thorazine, that's how.
Everything happened.
Yeah,
Well, it was a way
she's done.
to calm her down. And I don't think he had any sort of no funny business. I don't think any funny business happened.
Yeah, I don't think he walks around with chloroform or whatever.
Yeah, and Venkman, for as sleazy as he's been the whole movie with how he's treated women, he actually does not, I don't think, take advantage of her.
No, he
And
doesn't.
I
he's
don't think so.
yeah, and he's like, unlike the crewman who was like grabbing around on her as the ghost.
There's a production story about that.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
In the 80s? What?
No, it's more like Sigourney Weaver's like, look, I know what you guys got to do. You're wearing puppet hands. Just do what you're supposed to do. And they were like, oh, we're so nervous. So like they were more worried about offending her. And she was like, no, just do what you got to do. It's fine. I'm not going to be offended. And she was totally fine with it. So good on her.
Yeah,
Right,
but
so keeping the
Venkman,
apartment-
She's the professional.
yeah, no, Venkman shows some professionalism, we'll say, and doesn't do anything bad. Alex has disappeared into the ether of the library. He's back.
Oh, hang on. We're willing to spend 4 tangents on a ghost blowjob, but we're not willing to say that Bankman might have been a sleazy guy.
I mean, I think he was. Obviously his motivation is to get the ladies, but he's also kind of starts the film as a skeptic, but he slowly starts to believe, and then he's once he realizes that this is real and it's affecting someone that he's actually more than interested in, then he kind of maybe has a slight change in character.
With Peter Venkman, I think this was the character development they were going for with this character, because he was always kind of, the skis ball, the kind of just the one friend that you have that just will not stop being that guy, showing that he really is still a good guy deep down and willing to put what he wants aside, even though he could have absolutely taken advantage of the situation and moved on and tried to do the right thing in order to help not only, New York City out, but somebody that he really did care about, showing he was willing to be above himself and his urges.
Yeah, I think it showed that he's a goofy guy. He'll, do whatever, but at his heart, he's just like the other guys. He's there for the good.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and it shows in the scene when he does eventually go visit Dana after she's possessed, and he's like, for a second, he's like, all right, I could probably do something, but then it's like, no, there's obviously you're possessed. He obviously stays his lust, shall we say. And I mean,
it would have been out of character of what we'd seen of him so far to not at least acknowledge that there was that other opportunity.
Right, exactly.
But then his better half was like, no, we're not going to do it that way.
Exactly.
So after that scene, Grayson, what happens?
We move on to the next part where they have to find Louis Tully, who has been possessed by the Keymaster, and they have to understand what's going on, because they're starting to catch on to the idea of essentially what's going on with the building and the possessions themselves. Egon comes in with I forget the name of the guy that designed the building, but brings up the fact that he built the building basically as a ethereal antenna to pick up spiritual energy to summon Gozer via his building's construction, because they were looking at the blueprints and it didn't make any sense on why he chose the metal he did, or the materials, or the design. But once they found out, connected the dots of him being a worshiper of Gozer, and he had a cult that he was a leader of and did so with, they were making that building to be the antenna and a portal for the gateway of Gozer to come in and claim this realm of reality as their own and make them gods essentially of this realm as well. But when that leads into them finding Louis Tully and finding out all that information, and then having to deal with Walter Peck being Walter Peck.
Doesn't Louis Tully get dropped off at their station?
He does.
The police pick him up and then they drop him off.
He's like in a straitjacket. Yeah.
Because the psych ward didn't want to take him, and they didn't want to throw him in with the prisoners.
And I do know Sam noted while we were watching that it was just a spaghetti strainer on his head.
It was, yeah. It's the same spaghetti strainer that they put on Dana earlier in the film.
Mm-hmm.
But there's obviously
fact check that, brother. I'm the one that said that's a spaghetti strainer.
Okay, sorry, Matt.
Keep him honest, Matt.
Matt's our moderator tonight.
But no, it's the same prop they put on Dana when they interview her. But the spectral analyzer obviously shows what the true form is when they put it on Louis, who's being possessed by Vin's Clortho. So instead of a normal human face, they see the terror dog face.
Okay, so here's my question.
Mm-hmm.
We get to the point where Walter Peck comes in, shuts it down, ghost everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
Storm in the streets everywhere. There's no way you can try to say ghosts don't exist at this point. I know they try to do cover-ups and things like that. Everybody, Why is it that between 1 and 2, or just at this time span, why don't we ever have competing Ghostbuster units try to pop up? Or because there's people out there, they're like, hey, there's money to be made in this that would crop up overnight if this happened in real life. I think that could have been a very interesting part of a next movie or something, with other people trying to be Ghostbusters, maybe not as well or as professionally, that just kind of make things worse, or something like that. I feel like there was a lot of very interesting storylines there, but I mean, realistically, the whole world should have changed when all this went down, especially when it went down the second time.
So actually, it's funny because they actually mentioned that too in the Everything Wrong With for Ghostbusters. Because during the montage, it shows them getting a lot of work and a lot of calls. And he's like, you would think that there'd be people lined up to work at this place. And yet one scene shows them just running down the street. And they're not even in their vehicle or anything. They're just running down the street with their equipment.
Exactly. You would just think that it would explode.
Oh, not the montage.
I mean,
Okay,
look how much
so
it
I can-
exposes people looking for ghosts amateurly. You know, things like after Ghost Hunters and all that on Sci-Fi. Like, there's
Yeah,
ghost hunters
where
all
was
over
the-
the place, and we don't have nearly
Where
as
was
much
Zach
proof as they do.
Bagans?
2 hours
So the
into
Stay
this-
Puffed Marshmallow Man.
Sure.
He just popped in there.
What just popped?
You didn't
in
have to
there?
think.
But
No,
here's my thing. Here's my thing too.
The Stay Puffed Marshmallow Man was actually in the test screening for it. Not like
Mhm.
him
Mhm.
walking down the street, but like him like kind of popping in, and all the audience thought it was funny.
Yeah, it was like one of the only things from Aykroyd's original script that made it in. Was the Stay Puffed.
And it was probably, I mean, if you had to pick, it's probably the most iconic part of that movie.
For sure.
That or
for
Slimer,
sure.
yeah.
I mean, he's a mascot of a marshmallow brand. It's kind of interesting because Venkman's the one who figures out the whole choose or perish. I wouldn't really call it a riddle, but Venkman figures it out. And he's like, all right, I get it. If we think of J. Edgar Hoover, J. Edgar Hoover's going to appear and destroy us. But you mean to tell me at that point that no one thought of J. Edgar Hoover? Either they had no idea what he looked like. And he's like, clear your heads, empty your heads. And then everyone's like, all right, cool. But then Ray's like, Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. But no one thought J. Edgar Hoover. Just
They
What
didn't have
would've
the money for
been-
Leonardo DiCaprio yet.
What would have been
I
the
guess not.
funniest thing for somebody to have thought about in that moment for that movie?
At the gatekeeper keymaster scene, obviously they come back together. The building's like torn apart, and the Ghostbusters wind up in jail. Take
So
it from
here's
there.
the thing. In the novel, okay, so in the film, once the protection grid's shut off and the ghosts are set free, was it Matt? Was it Matt when we watched it the other night? It was like, where's all this water coming from? So that was kind of supposed to represent like ectoplasm falling from the sky. But yeah, anyway, so in the novel, there's slightly little difference in the novel because in the film, when Dana's possessed, she's watching outside her window, sees all the spectral stream, and it like comes towards her and blows out the windows. But apparently that happens when she gets possessed. Like everything just kind of blows up. No, it doesn't. The windows do blow out, but then when Lewis eventually shows up and they, according to the novel, they merge. There's no details. They just merge to complete the ritual. That's when the whole like floor blows out, and that's where like the hidden stairs show up and all that. Which, by the way, according to the novel, it's actually right behind where the refrigerator was.
I wonder if some steps were hot and some were cool.
Wait.
Possibly.
So
Possibly.
did the guy that mined this in Oklahoma, did he build the stairs there?
Yes, Ivo Shandor, the architect of the building. In the novel, the Ghostbusters kind of come to the conclusion that this may have been Ivo Shandor's like personal apartment, and like those were his stairs because they go up to where the temple is on the rooftop. But during renovations, they walled it off because after he died, I can't remember when he died. But they did renovations. They walled it off because of either it was too dangerous or it was like, well, these stairs just go upstairs to the roof. That's kind of useless. So that's also kind of a reason why it makes more sense that Dana got possessed by Zool, because there's obviously some psychokinetic turbulent energy within that apartment unit.
So Grayson has circled back to Peck. He returns, and what does he do when he finds the Ghostbusters?
He shuts these off. He shuts these all off. He basically tries to bring him in for charges because of their endangerment of the environment, because of how radioactive everything is, and how much energy they are consuming. Because obviously it contains something that ethereal, you need to consume a lot of energy to do so. Then when he shuts everything off and everything goes kaput, drags him into the mayor's office to basically ring him up with charges, and then, or no, gets him arrested. Then mayor brings him out of jail to be like, so can you guys fix this? And they're like, yeah.
Right. What's the worst that can happen at this point? Either you put us back in jail or you were right.
I know it's basically a very basic summation of that, but that's essentially what happened. Was they bring him out to try him for endangering the city, but then they're like, well, we can stop it. And he was the reason that this happened. So on and so forth. And then this man has no dick line comes up. Always funny. Cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria.
And then at one point, Beckman looks to the head of the police officer. He's like, "I'm not coming back, Chief." And then he goes and fights Green Goblin in the burning building.
I was gonna say that's very Spider-Man.
Bring me Spider-Man. Right? What's the line?
Ghosts are all like hallucinations caused by the radiol, except that they're expelling.
It's
correct.
Nerve gas. He thinks they're using nerve gas to cause people to have these mass hallucinations.
To
And
keep
they
themselves
show
in
up with
business.
this. Yeah, and they show up with these lasers and use a light show to fix the problem.
What kind of laser shows were they having in the 80s? I want to know.
Well, if
Same
you ever
laser
went to
shows,
the-
just a lot more drugs.
if you went to the Universal Studios Ghostbusters experience, they pretty much did the same thing for the proton packs. So I'm pretty sure that's same sort of effect, I guess. So,
Well, guys, a whole 45 minutes after the movie ended, we have made it to them traveling to the hidden temple. Grayson, do you want to describe this scene?
Yes. It's dark. Storm clouds are rolling in. An ethereal light is coming through because the Keymaster and the Gatekeeper have merged, and the Ghostbusters have a right to try to stop it. And they have shown up just a little too late. Thus, opening up with the portal to Gozer's dimension, out walks the androgynous, gender fluid, gender neutral being of ghost beingness, Gozer the Gozerian.
thought Gozer was a man.
No, it was when it was Pee Wee Herman, but they changed it.
Well, they said it's whatever it wants to be.
You know what's funny? I'm still stuck in my head when you mentioned they're going to the hidden temple, and I imagine them showing up and they got the giant Olmec head.
Oh my
And-
god!
I'm Olmec.
They get put into purple parrots and
Legends of the Hidden
green
Temple.
jaguars, and they're like, "You
Prevent
must
Gozer's
complete the silver
return
monkey."
with answering these 3 questions.
And then we all learn about history.
Yeah, we do. And Gozer being played by the incredibly hot, like Eastern European model, Slavitza Jovan, but voiced by Patty Edwards, who was a.
You know what? Do you have the novelization there with you right now?
I do. Yes, it's right next to me.
Read us the description of Gozer.
Oh, okay.
Didn't they consider David Bowie for the role of Gozer too?
I think they did.
That actually would have
but
been
also I think
badass.
And then they try
Also,
to
they
model
considered-
once. Yeah.
Yeah, and then with Slavitza, they like basically made her look Bowie-esque.
I could see it. There's definitely some
Okay.
influence there.
The doors had begun to swing back, emitting a blinding white light. The 2 terror dogs jumped down and scampered up the stairs to new positions flanking the doors. Each raised a paw in salute. He could hear Zedmore mumbling a prayer. Good idea. But the only one I can remember is the one that goes, "If I should die before I awake." "Look, the light," Egon said, shielding his eyes with his hand. Yes, the light that was not coming from the temple. It was a being, a single glowing figure, like a filament of a bulb, moving slowly down the stairs, the brilliance fading as it distanced itself from the doors. And behind it, Ray Stantz had the satisfaction of seeing was a strange interior, a geometric cage of glowing lines stretching away into another place entirely. I was right. The figure stopped beside one of the hideous guardians and stroked it negligently, as if it were some sort of nightmarish house pet. The dog thing flapped out a foot-long tongue and panted happily as the last of the supernatural illumination drained from its master. "It's a girl," Zedmore blurted out. "What's going on, Ray?" "No, it's Gozer," Spengler said. "He's playing with us. He can take any form. Only one way to find out." Stantz took a few steps forward, the induction rifle held loosely across his chest and planted both feet firmly, like a Revolutionary War Minutemen, Venkman decided. The creature turned curiously regarding Stantz as something it had never seen before, though without any apparent hostility. It had the form of a thin, very strange young girl, apparently swathed in a clean mist from the ankle to the neck. Her hair swept up and back, not precisely cut short, but seeming to disappear as if it linked the being to its home dimension, and its eyes were the deepest blood red and liquid, like 2 beating hearts swimming in their own juices. Happy Halloween, Bakeman thought. Do your stuff, Ray. And that's when he goes up and he's like, he does his whole speech, which is kind of cool in the book. He's like,
Right, the Miranda rights.
Yeah, as a duly constituted representative of the city of New York and on behalf of the county and state of New York, the United States of America, the planet Earth, and all its inhabitants, I hereby order you to cease and desist any and all supernatural activity and return at once to your place of origin or next parallel dimension. So,
And then
she shows up
Gozer
as
becomes Palpatine and shoots lightning.
Are you a god?
So
yeah,
okay,
that happens.
here's my next question.
Sure.
With that line
You
there,
will die.
the "Are you a god?" What if they would have said yes, just right away, just been like, "Yep"?
You
Would
said
Gozer
yes,
have done
Ray.
anything different? Do you
She
think they
probably-
would? Oh, all right, sorry, I'm gonna go back then. I didn't realize there was gods here. Like,
That's the thing. That's the thing. Like maybe Gozer wouldn't have tested them. He was like, "Yeah, I am." Gozer probably been like, "Fine," and
oh,
just
peace, deuces.
would not. Well, I don't think Gozer would have left the dimension because obviously Gozer was summoned for a reason. But being presented by these 4 dudes who show up and saying, "Yeah, I am a god," they're probably, probably wouldn't have been aggroed essentially by saying no. But yeah, but it's actually interesting in the novel after Gozer zaps them. It talks about how their packs work a little bit different in the novel, which is kind of fascinating. It actually absorbs the energy, and they look at their wands, or they call them induction guns, and it's almost set to overload. And there's, I think, a thought by either Stantz or Venkman, and they're like, well, if we take another hit like that, our own equipment actually might blow up and fry us. So it's kind of cool that like there's actually some sort of protection with their proton packs, but they're not called proton packs in the novel. But
See,
it's
that's why
kind of-
they didn't
kind of
have
cool
to charge him
kind of a cool
after
idea.
that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so basically the energy from Gozer, supercharged their packs. So it's kind of cool. Just I like the detail.
Didn't
Right,
that
and
happen
then-
in Avengers? I think when Iron Man gets hit by Thor's lightning when they first meet,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like where he's at like 200%.
And then we get a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man and all that battle and people just freaking out because there's how tall was he? Like 300 feet, 150 feet?
No, he's only just barely over 100 feet tall.
Okay.
Oh, well, that's it. Okay.
Yeah, not so scary.
That's it. It's still bigger than all of us. It's 100 feet. I can
So
take
if
him down
if they
easy.
would have thought
That's
of J. Edgar
nothing.
Hoover, what if he would have been 100 feet?
That's the thing.
Just
That's the
walking
thing. I think
down.
that would have been probably way more like brutal because instead of just a mascot for a food company versus an actual human or human-like creature.
Or the Statue of
Obviously
Liberty.
originally it was supposed to be the Statue of Liberty that comes out of the harbor, but obviously that was moved to the second film.
Whoa, spoilers.
Yeah, sorry.
Alex.
I don't care. The movie is over 30 years old.
They might have already finished movie 2 at this point.
I think they did. I think they just wrapped up filming, so I think it might be on DVD now. But no,
No, I mean, I think they're like halfway through movie 2 if they're watching it alongside this commentary. I think that's the
bringing
joke
up-
that Keegan was going for.
Oh, I see.
going into making the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man,
Mhm.
I wonder if when he thinks of him, does he really think that detailed, or did Gozer just naturally completely make him out of marshmallow? Like it still would have had the form, but did Gozer know like, oh, this is marshmallow? Because as when we see it blow up, it's just marshmallow cream everywhere.
Right.
So I wonder if that was just Gozer being like, oh, that's fun. Let's just make it marshmallow all the way through instead of just like a living flesh and blood that looks like the Stay Puft Man.
Well, that's the thing. Like that's maybe kind of part of the
magic.
Not the magic, but like part of the good thing that Ray thought of something so innocent, as he says, as a marshmallow mascot, because Gozer could be on some, higher level to go, oh, well, he's thinking of this, which is all marshmallow, maybe not knowing what marshmallow is, and just happen to have the properties of marshmallow, which allowed it to be, I wouldn't say defeated because they didn't defeat it until they crossed the streams and closed the gateway, that they could actually do damage to it, essentially.
Right.
But yeah, that's maybe they got lucky. So, maybe Ray thinking of the most innocent thing possible was a good thing instead of J. Edgar Hoover, which would have been probably very gory when they shot a
would have been a very
creature
different movie.
that's 100 feet tall.
Very, very Carrie-esque at the end if that had happened.
Mm-hmm. Which,
especially
say,
when they cross the streams, right, and then the Stay Puft blows up, and Peck is saying there, his stuntman, originally they dropped like almost 80 pounds of like shaving cream on him, and they're like, it's not going to hurt him,
mentholated.
And it just like
it's menthol.
Knocked him to the ground, like wiped him out, and they're like, maybe we'll just half that, like we don't need to drop that much. And then didn't some people like burn from it too? Like,
yeah, because it was it wasn't regular shaving cream. It was menthol shaving cream. So a lot of people had an adverse reaction to that.
And I love the Stay Puft Man, like we talked about, how it's very recognizable, very big, like mascot level. I don't think he was necessary in the most recent one. I think it's done. I keep bringing back the callback for Afterlife when it happened. The main ones. They need to be done after that. Like, give it a rest. Bring them back maybe later on, but we don't need Stay Puft in every single Ghostbusters movie. Maybe the logo just to show that it's still around, but I don't think we need actual Stay Puffs.
Yeah, if you're going to give it to a new generation, let a new generation have a new mascot. It's time to move on.
Yeah, let's get a new favorite.
Or here's another thought. Have a new generation make a new movie. Everything these days.
But see, Nick, that takes effort, time, and untested results on a marketplace. So I can't do that as a studio head. I need money.
Well, that's the thing too. Yeah, unless you're like an independent studio or independent filmmaker, like that you have to. You're kind of like you have to do what the studio said. Oh, what just happened?
Big studio.
Want us to be silenced.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
You know what? That's actually a movie that
even Skype's like, okay, guys, wrap it up.
Like a spin-off movie. I want to see a movie that was like the day after all this with the Stay Puft executives after what happened. Mm-hmm. Like the PR department, just like, all right, what are we doing with this? We can't.
They're just really like, yeah, they're like, we're just going to run with it.
Right? Yeah, either
we
really
gave
good
the
or it's
city
really bad.
Free marshmallows everywhere.
Exactly.
If you can eat the entire Stay Puft Marshmallow Man from the event, you get free marshmallows for life.
Or
guys, 85.
Was there a graham cracker company out there?
You can clearly see here. There's been a spike of obesity in New York because everyone is eating the Stay Puft Marshmallow Reigns.
There's also been an increase in possessions and demon hauntings of the area because of the
what if that would have been the second movie? Everybody who ate any of the marshmallow became possessed, and the whole second movie is going around just like battling the marshmallow possessed.
It actually they had a script written. It was all the people who ate the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man were starting to gain higher intelligence, and Draco Malfoy tried to keep them in cages, and then the one stood up and said no, and then they had to change it to apes, and that's how Rise of the Planet of the Apes came around.
I thought you were legit for a second. I was like, oh, you must have gotten like that from a documentary, and then you said Draco Malfoy. I was like, no.
Nope, I'm sorry. All the knowledge of the documentary is gone now because of your tangents earlier.
I've been a fan for many years. I'm sorry, Nick.
You've broken me. I'm questioning.
I don't know how much about like the other ones we want to talk about, but I think it's really interesting. We can, I guess, talk about this another time. How the original like reboot, resequel thing was going to be like a genuine group of like today's top talents, like Steve Carell and things like that. We're going to be the ones to take over. I think that would have been awesome.
It would have been, but they had to go with the soft reboot and bring out Gozer, and it's like, no, Gozer was defeated. Why do you have to do this? It's dumb. Don't.
Yeah, like whatever. It was going to be an actual, like it wasn't kind of a kid Stranger Things vibe, which I think the success of Stranger Things is absolutely what made them go more in the direction of like, oh, let's get some kids and a family involved, And it wasn't bad. Like Afterlife was a good movie. I'm not here to. That was fine. It was good, but I really would have liked to have seen them continue with the concept of the top like comedy people of the time taking over as the next like ghost group from the originals, and then having their own stories to tell.
The thing about that though, I can see why it wasn't made, is because a lot of people don't want to go back and touch these classics sometimes. Like is, it was good. It was good and it's iconic. Why try to change?
Desecrate the corpse?
Yeah, why because you can absolutely do that with movies.
I mean,
there's
it hasn't stopped Hollywood from doing The Crow, so.
Right, but that's the thing. Look at the Crow is a good example because look at it. Like everyone loved the original, and then they saw Bill Skarsgård with his like shirt off and jacket open, and the entire internet freaked out because they're like, "That's not what the Crow is."
I also think there's a big difference in touching stuff like that, though. If you're doing a remaster, like you're redoing it, versus doing a continuation reboot like Ghostbusters, where it's kind of keeping the story going with being new. And then The Crow is an actual just total remake. One of them, I think, is erasing what happened before. One of them is sometimes trying to honor what came before.
You also have to realize that when it comes to films, it's the studios that own the property to these films. And so they're going to do whatever
they think there's money to be made. They're going to squeeze it.
Exactly.
Yeah, to that point, I was going to say, like, when studio executives think about continuing anything, they don't understand the art of it, so they just hire somebody who can chalk together a script that has the emotional high notes, because everything that happened after The Force Awakens has just been nothing but nostalgia bait for everybody. And it's like, for some reason, everybody can't realize that nobody wants to have to just have their childhood shoved in their face anymore. And it's just, by that I mean, having those properties is great, but at a certain point, the story has to continue. You can't just keep doing the same thing over again and expecting you to get record profits. And
I think that's why there's been so much success for things like The Mandalorian, where it's still in the same universe, but it's new stories. It's something expanding off of the key of what we've been growing up with.
I'm not saying no because I disagree with you, David. I do agree with you. I just refuse to talk about Star Wars with Alex as part of the channel. I'm not doing it anymore. I can't. I'm broken already. I don't want to be more broken.
What about with nostalgia baiting? They did have Jeff Goldblum lay on a table with his shirt open for the new Jurassic World.
Jurassic is another one that they definitely did the exact same thing.
Oh man, they've beat that one so dead.
I actually liked the first Jurassic World, the concept of it being a new, it was still showing what had happened before, but new group of people and everything. Like, that was fine. And they could have stopped there and it would have been great.
And to that point, like, look at Star Wars, look at Ghostbusters, look at every other one. The first one kind of gets you excited because you're like, okay, it's literally the exact same movie we've had before, but it's new universe. It's showing us they're starting over. Everything's going to be great. And the second movie comes out and you're like, what is this? I've already seen this. It's not that I want to see this again. It's, this is going to be new stories in the universe that I like. Why are we doing this again?
Yeah, why are you just plugging new characters into the old spots?
Exactly. Yeah, you can't,
I was going to say, when it comes to, like, certain, like, sequel treatments, I really liked what they did with the Vacation movies. The newest Vacation. Yeah, when it was his son. I mean, it flopped in the box office because of the exact reasons that we're talking about. Like, nobody wanted the same thing. Nobody was expecting it to do well. I saw it. It wasn't in theaters, but I did see it, and I actually thought it was a really funny movie.
Yeah. I mean, it was a solid movie. It was not quite the same. It was the same kind of spirit, but they honored what had come before and didn't write off all the other things that had happened before that.
No, they didn't write it off or anything. They made the humor a bit more modern, and then it worked, I thought.
All right, well, that's been Ghostbusters. Thank you guys. Make sure you tip your bartenders and waitresses. This has been great.
Don't take pictures.
No.
Either.
Bustin' makes you feel good.
Stick around for a little bit longer. I've never seen the second movie, but I imagine we're close to the end.
All right, so Alex, let's get into the second. So there's a baby involved, and
are we doing all?
So
them?
No, I can't.
Because if
can't
we are,
do this I can't.
I mean, I got work in the morning, but I can sit here all night. Let's get this going.
No.
Can we just jump straight into answer the call, guys? That's at least 3 hours.
So let's go to Ghostbusters 2016 is the best Ghostbusters movie, and Paul Feig. I do have like some legitimate.
Where's the kick button? Hold on.
No. I will say this, like there. I feel like it was kind of like okay, well,
Spit
we
it
got
out,
all these-
man.
Well, we got all these like brilliant comedic actresses. We got Paul Feig, who's a brilliant comic director. He did Bridesmaids. But then it's like, you take a property like Ghostbusters.
I thought Judd
No one-
Apatow did Bridesmaids.
Did
No,
he?
that was
I
Paul
thought it was
Feig.
Paul Feig.
Was it? Okay.
He was a producer, but yeah, Paul Feig wrote and directed it.
That makes
But yeah,
sense
that's-
with Melissa McCarthy and all them coming over.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, people are like, oh, well, Bridesmaids was really good. Like, he could certainly tackle Ghostbusters, but like him going over budget and apparently all the rumors of him, just saying, okay, action, ad lib, everybody. And they're just like, let's just keep talking and yapping the whole time. And it's like, that's not funny. Like, yes, they ad libbed in 1984 Ghostbusters, but they had a script to work around, and there were takes where they would ad libbed, but that was not the whole.
It's also such a different type of movie than Bridesmaids.
Yeah.
It's true, yeah.
Like,
Oh,
it
yeah,
is not the
that's-
same humor.
That was
To
its
both your
major
guys'
flop.
points, it's kind of like what a lot, like we kind of talked about it earlier, but what fans kind of get upset about, and a lot of people like to make fun of fans for because they don't really articulate it well. But it's stories that are taking place in this universe that we've grown attached to. We know how they work, but then people come in and make stories that literally do nothing to the entire universe, but just basically make fun of you for liking it, make fun of everything else, and then basically just try to take cash away from you. And you're like, wait a minute, you don't get to come in here and slap me in the face and then tell me I shouldn't like what I like because it's dumb and nerdy. You were in here when I got into this, so you have no right to come in and claim this as your movie now because you want to make cash off of this entire enterprise. So that's why fans keep getting upset over stuff like this, is because like Ghostbusters 2016, it just made a story where it was like, this is dumb and stupid, and we're not going to add anything to it besides make a bunch of other messages that we feel are important in a Ghostbusters movie that have no place in the universe. Because if you're going to tell a Ghostbusters story in a Ghostbusters universe, you do that. You don't just try to make it a platform for messaging that has no place in the universe.
Well, I'll say
agree.
too, the ghosts in Ghostbusters 2016 they feel more Haunted Mansion than Ghostbusters.
They
Oh,
really
yeah.
do.
Yes.
They went hardcore leaning into the goofy ghosts.
And honestly, like I feel with the new Reitman movies, like his son, they may not be as intense, but I do feel like they are a close comeback to what the intensity was in those original movies.
Yeah,
Not anywhere near as scary, but
I can believe that it's the same universe. I get that it's the same world. It feels the same stylistically. It may not be quite on par in some other places, but they're not. I mean, I wouldn't write off Ghostbusters. I think these two were decent movies. I mean, I want to see the third one with some improvements and hopefully get away from what's been done before, but they're fine.
Well, and it was shocking to me just like how noticeable it was that they filmed outside in Frozen Empire versus inside like a dome or something.
Oh yeah, instead of like a,
Oh,
st-
yeah.
a set.
Like it was
yeah.
almost jarring, like how realistic it looked, and I was like, huh.
Because you can tell.
this is what
you can
movies
tell
were
when
like.
it's. Yeah, you can like not to knock technology, because obviously filmmaking is always developing technology, but like there's just certain technology that works, I guess, and you can also overuse something that just eventually looks like crap. And like the volume, I think, has its place, but I think they heavily rely on it, and people start to notice it, and it looks just so fake. Like, ugh. So
Like,
Well,
I will
that's
always
why-
be a huge fan of practical effects and filming on location whenever you can.
100%.
When
I get that it's
think-
harder,
Yeah.
but
Well, also, like, I think the poor, like, designers are just overworked with how many projects they're expected to do nowadays versus, like,
Well, yeah.
we're going to work on 2 movies in, like, 4 years. Or, like, well, it was wild when Spielberg did Schindler's and Jurassic Park the same year. Now, like, Disney the one year did what, like, 10 Marvel movies?
I mean,
Or
he had to
10 Marvel
paint all those
properties.
people black and white before they could film that movie. The makeup crew went crazy.
Except for the red.
Wait, what?
That's true.
Schindler's
Her dress.
List?
Oh, okay, yeah, because it was.
It's in
Gotcha,
black and
okay.
white.
But I mean, like, kind of to that point, I've seen like a lot of videos talking about it. But my honest opinion on like effects and everything else with that is like, even to Alex's point about just the difference between set and actually filming on location, and David's point as well, is the mic can really recognize what's real and authentic and what's not. So even if like you feel like you're getting away with it in a controlled environment like a set or anything like that, it still presents an uncanny valley vibe, because you can notice the overly controlled situation or the overly controlled environment that they're presenting this spectacle in, and it doesn't make
It just
believable.
feels different.
Yeah, you're like, this is just a pocket, and this doesn't, like, you can't connect with anything really. You're just consuming a product, and you're like, this was the dumbest thing that I had to sit through. I think, like, the only, like, for instance, the only movie that really felt enjoyable to watch because it felt semi-realistic, because I think they did use some real sets, was Dune Part 2. That was the only one where you're like, that was even really good, even with the special effects.
What about
Because they
Godzilla
still try to
minus
make
one?
it feel real.
Godzilla minus one's a great example. I mean, look at their Oscar. They proved right there, practical effects can still get it done.
Yeah, $15 million was their
Even-
budget.
Even to that point, like, practical effects aren't, flawless either. Like,
No,
you can
not
go
at
back and
all.
watch a lot of earlier films and go, I can see the string there. I can see, oh, there's the wire or whatever.
But that's
So-
like things I love. Like when I watch the old War of the Worlds, and you can
It
see
gives some of that
the
charm.
Martians coming and they're on the ropes. Like that is
Okay.
that's
It's fair
that's
enough.
awesome.
I mean, it
yeah.
kind of goes
Well-
back to what we were talking about with the eggs coming out of the fridge. Like, look at that effect and how we see it now. It still holds up. It still looks great. Go and look at some CGI from just 15, 20 years ago. Compare that to like now. Like, it's awful. It's the worst thing ever. Whereas this other one that's over, it's like 30, 40 years old, that still looks good. I mean, look at Jurassic
Sure.
Park when they went back to using practical, like puppet animatronic dinosaurs. They look
Mhm.
so much better than any of the CGI ones.
Are you saying that the shark from Jaws 3 doesn't hold up today?
Whoa, Jaws 3D?
Yeah, 3D when it just
Oh,
touches the
Are we
glass
still
and then
talking
it-
about
You know,
Ghostbusters?
he
Are we still
ate
talking
Marty
about
McFly.
Ghostbusters? Are we still talking about Ghostbusters?
hey, this is Ghostbusters After Dark now. This is when it gets
Oh.
wild.
After dark.
Who you gonna call?
I'm about to get wild up. I'm about to run wild up in here.
Hold on a second. If the before after dark got into the ghost blowjobs, what goes into this section?
I don't want to know. I
Yeah,
know.
That's
I'm
pushing the line.
completely spent. I'm sorry.
All right, Alex, discuss how the video game adds on to this world.
Okay, fair point. So the video game does still rely on Gozer again, but at least in this for this story, there's a Gozer exhibit, and it releases like a kind of a burst of energy, and things that were related to Gozer kind of reanimate. That's why the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man comes back, but it's more of like a, I don't want to say carbon copy, but it's like a weaker version of the
Like a
So, okay,
residual,
let's-
or residual.
Let's be
yeah.
honest here.
Thank you.
The storyline is great in the game because it was gonna be the third movie, like a lot
And
of
I'm
the
fine
points.
with that. I'm fine
But-
with that. Yeah.
I fully believe the reason, like Stay Puft's there, why we have a level in the library to fight the ghost and all, it was so that you could live out your favorite moments from the other ones. I totally think that those parts were kind of added in to
I
make
agree with
it
that.
more more fun. If it was just going to be the movie story, I don't think some of that would have been in there.
I know, I agree with that. Like once you get past all the Gozer crap, you do realize that it's actually the story is more about Evo Shandor, who's actually trying to become Destructor form. So that's great, but at the same time, it's like it does really heavily rely on the first film, and that's my problem I had with Afterlife. And it's like, can we, like, you can probably reference Gozer, fine, make a new story, but it's just heavily reliant on that. But I think it did do a good job of kind of expanding on that whole lore of Gozer, the Gozer worshippers, Evo Shandor. I think Gozer was not in the video game. It was all Evo Shandor. But then, like, when Afterlife came out, they tried to do the same thing. It's like, wait, didn't I just see this in the video game? Why were you going back to this? But apparently they ignored the whole video game, so whatever. Yeah,
Which I also thought it was cool that you're a new Ghostbuster in the game instead of being one of the
you're
other
the rookie.
guys. Yeah,
Well,
I like that a
the thing.
lot.
That's the thing. Like in the first film, after Venkman convinces Ray to, take out a third mortgage on his parents' house that they left him, so they
His
could get.
parents.
So yes, well, in the book they explain that his parents are dead, so he's been left that house in the will. They don't really say that in the movie, but it's not really important. He has the house, and he just takes a third mortgage out so they can get money to fund their business. I'm broken because I started rambling on. I got to like a third point. I forgot what I was talking about.
About being a rookie in the game.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Venkman says he's very confident about the business model. He's like, hey, the franchise rights alone will make us rich beyond our wildest dreams. And it's like, oh, that's a really good idea. If you guys get so popular, there are going to be other franchises. Like, if this whole supernatural activity keeps happening, sure. I mean, because Venkman's thinking like a businessman, and they actually really kind of explain it more in the book, in the novel. But obviously at the end of the movie and in the book, that once Gozer is defeated, like a lot of the supernatural activity kind of just subsides a bit. But it's still a really good.
See, that would have been such a cooler direction for them to go with an Afterlife. Be like, oh no, this is the California Ghostbusters. And then they could still have a crossover where like the guys from New York are training them, or they're successful on that coast. Let's do some other ones. I don't think it had to be necessarily tied directly to the first one.
Right. No, and I think that's where they should have gone.
That would have been really cool. And then we could have seen different groups from all over eventually cropping up, and there could have been Ghostbusters all over the place.
And that's the whole point of like the costume group. There's like different Ghostbusters for every state, every country, whatever. And we call
kind of like how Star Wars does the 501st.
Yeah, exactly, the 501st. We talked about that earlier before you came on.
Yeah, Alex is part of both of them.
I'm part of both.
Hey, we all got to have hobbies.
Yeah. But no, they call them franchises, and it's based on that line in the first movie. It's like, oh, I'm part of the Georgia franchise and the Atlanta franchise, whereas I think 501st is like, oh, they're garrisons or squads or whatever. But screw them, they suck. Ghostbusters are way cooler. Anyway, you probably have some 501st fans in your audience, so
I don't know if I do.
Come at me.
Grayson, any thoughts on the video game Ghostbusters?
The goddamn video.
I played it for a little bit. I thought it was a lot of fun.
It is fun.
I think honestly it is an interesting take, and I think if anything, if they were to make a third movie in a perfect world with all three of the original cast members, that would have been the absolute send off. Nobody would be trying to touch the Ghostbusters again. It would be put to bed, and it'd be pretty much done.
The other thing too that made the game so good is that it was actually co-written by Aykroyd and Ramis, so it has their stamp on it. So that's what makes it more, I guess, special. Because you look at the new films, it's Jason Reitman and who's the director, Gail Keenan or whatever. And it's like, oh, because you're the original director's son, you think you know what you're doing, whatever, fine. But yeah, I feel like they don't have the same feel as you can tell it's not written by Dan Aykroyd and Hal Ramis. And obviously, when Afterlife came out, Hal Ramis had already passed. He's been gone for I don't know how many years by that point. So they kind of had to work that into the story.
Yeah, to your point, it definitely feels like he's trying to live up to his dad's legacy, and he feels like he could have made a difference with that, because everybody else that worked on the project was done at this point. They were done. The drama with Bill Murray and everybody else, they kind of just tapped out and lived their own life, and everything went on the way it did. But I think for what it is, it's fine and serviceable to a franchise that means a lot to a lot of people. But I think we're reaching the point where a lot of these franchises are either tapped out of creative potential because the studios don't really know what to do with it, because they refuse to do anything creative, they refuse to do anything new, they refuse to let anything.
They don't want to take a chance because they might waste money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's all about money to them. It's like what.
And it's like, instead of realizing the fact that the reason these studios took so long to build back in the day, back in the 70s, back in the 80s, back in the 90s, was because you had to have modest budgets, you had to reel everything in, you had to make everything, not $400 million every time. You had to let those tiny projects gestate and figure it out. Otherwise, you were not going to have anything to feed your larger, to build up to, because every franchise, sports, media, whatever, you have to have your tiny projects that become big projects. Otherwise, you have nothing to start pushing on a major market. And they've lost sight of that, and that's what we're seeing right now. And it's unfortunate.
Well, and have YouTube and other video sharing sites push the independent creators to not go to Hollywood.
I think it totally has, because you can keep control of your own product.
I think it's definitely. Sorry, go ahead, Alex.
No, I was gonna say. I mean, that's why I'm a huge fan of Star Wars, because like after A New Hope, like Lucas got the rights to Star Wars, and every film after that was an independent film, so he had complete control. I know you're looking at me, Nick, but every film after that, he had complete control over it. And like,
I'm a fan of Star Wars. You complain about Star Wars all the time.
This is pre-Disney. This is pre-Disney, which is to my point, because once Disney got it, it's just
you made Nick just disappear into the ether.
Yeah,
Okay, so real quick answer to this, if you can, Alex.
Mhm.
If you don't like the post Disney stuff, I can definitely understand that. But what do you think about the shows like Mandalorian and things like that?
I
Mandalorian-
refuse. I told you I did not want to discuss Star Wars with Alex as part of this panel. He
That's he's gonna do it quick.
He complains about it all the time. He hates everything Dave Filoni because it's not what Star
Nick,
Wars.
you don't have to listen to it.
50 years
We
ago.
haven't heard it.
Nick, I think Nick has gone off the deep end there. I don't know what he's talking about.
Fuck you.
He's just gaslighting me, saying I hate it and all this stuff. I have no idea what he's talking about. I've never discussed Star Wars with him ever.
So do you like the shows? Yes or no?
So Mandalorian, I think Mandalorian started off really strong, and then it just
Bogged
kind of
down.
it got really weak. Like it could have been,
got
it had the
Disney
potential
Prime.
it had a potential for a good show. It's like, ooh, it's very Western, which is what, one of the inspirations for Star Wars. I think I want to say, like, once Taika Waititi had his episode, it just got dumb. Like, that man knows how to freaking ruin everything.
So do you have any hope
I'm
for
cooking, right?
the movie?
That's what I'll do. Sorry.
I'll ruin your mythos in a minute, baby.
Oh, right. I'm from New Zealand. I'm a little quirky Kiwi, right? Yeah, that's what I'll do.
Piss off, Ghost. So sorry, what was your question, David?
I said, tell us about the Ghostbusters Star Wars crossover that you want to happen.
So it actually did happen in a comic book. No, it didn't happen at all.
I was going to say, what about the Hulk
would
versus
not.
Yoda movie that they wanted to pitch?
I do not. These two franchises should not cross over ever. There's no reason for them to cross over except for.
I mean,
like, some
canonically,
weirdo
there's
fan fiction.
ghosts in Star Wars.
And
True, there
canonically,
is.
E.T. is part of Star Wars.
Don't you want to see
That's
Obi-Wan
true.
get busted?
You see Yoda show up being like, learn this, you must, to come in with a proton pack.
No.
Contain the unit.
That see the
Cross
ETs,
the streams, you must
ETs
not.
The ETs
Leads to the
being-
dark side, it does.
The ETs being in Star Wars is one of those, like, oh, let me nod something to my director friend, but then it's like, what?
So
what
you're telling me you
false?
don't want to see a bunch of little Stay Puffed men riding R2-D2?
Wow. No, I don't want to see that.
Every
That's
day
where the
we live
money
in
is.
this
That's
corporate
the money
hellscape.
shot.
We draw further, we fall further and further away from sanity. In
Well,
this corporate
No.
hellscape.
If you're
That
lucky,
is-
they'll even
yeah,
make a
that's-
novelization about it that you can read in a couple years.
No, I'm sure I could, and it'll explain everything, much like the Last Jedi novelization, which will fix everything in that movie. And I should have to read the book about it to make it make sense. Okay.
Hey, Alex, just wait till we get the ultimate crossover of General Grievous meeting
Oh my God.
Arnold Schwarzenegger's Doc Ock.
Why is
And
it
then they
Schwarzenegger?
have proton.
Why
packs.
is it
They have a bunch
Grayson?
of different.
Grayson, why is it Arnold Schwarzenegger as Doc Ock?
I don't know.
Because he
Keegan.
was James Cameron's original casting for Doc Ock.
You know how awful that would have been.
Yeah, for real.
We
I
have
love
a
Schwarzenegger.
short dedicated to it, David. I will send it.
Like
Grayson was so kind to narrate.
I'll give you another one for
Peter,
free right now, Keegan.
All right,
I'll
let's
be
do
back
it.
at Octopus Lab. You give him tickles. Turn them down.
Peter, I've got 4 extra arms, Peter. I'm like a octopus now.
To be fair, if he would have been
climbing up the water
Doc
spout.
Ock, and they would have eventually done a movie version of Superior Spider-Man where Doc Ock takes over Peter's body and is like him, but he still talks like Arnold Schwarzenegger, that would have been amazing. Just having Peter suddenly sound like that, like Tobey Maguire doing an Arnold Schwarzenegger. Oh my God, I would have watched that.
And it wasn't Tobey Maguire. It was going to be Leonardo DiCaprio.
Even better.
I see that, and I raise you a Terminator 3 deleted scene with Sergeant Candy with
yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh my god.
Who's like, "Hi, I'm Sergeant Candy,"
Oh my god.
and they're like, "Oh, we got model
Oh
our
my
new
God.
robots after this guy, but we don't like his voice."
Okay, so,
So imagine
Keegan,
all
where,
the-
Keegan, where are we at in the first Ghostbusters movie at this point? What scene are
I
we
think we're done.
discussing
Everybody got
I
everybody
got-
got marshmallowed.
I got
We
my
all got
notes.
marshmallow.
Yeah, to answer your
I've been
question, it
drinking
looks
a
like
lot.
they are just walking into the library. They've been. This is scene 2.
Oh my god, no! I can't do this anymore.
Anyway, so welcome
my
to
God.
the
I
show.
will say
guys.
this.
We're going to be talking about Ghostbusters. That was the
Hang on,
intro.
I'm googling it. I'm looking up how long was the second
Ghostbusting.
movie.
What is it? Not what you might think. Stick around to find out.
No, speaking of the library
2 minute
scene,
pen.
the guy who approaches him, he's got a name in the novel, and they actually give him the same name in a documentary. I think his name is Roger Delacourt. Turns out he actually worked at the New York Public Library. Like, he's actually a librarian. They're like, "Hey, do you want to be in our film?" And it was awesome. But also, he was also again in Frozen Empire. He's like, "Oh, I thought I'd kick you guys out. Oh, cause member berries, whatever." It's like, come on.
Did he make that
here's the
sound?
thing.
I don't remember that.
He did. He actually did. And I actually want to rewatch Ghostbusters 2. And I want to count how many member berries are in it, just out of curiosity. But out of
Okay,
curiosity,
by the
I'll
way,
see how many-
Ghostbusters 1 is an hour and 45 minutes, so we definitely gone over the time for that. Ghostbusters 2 is an hour and 48 minutes. We're
We've gone over
approaching
both, right?
that time.
He's Vigo. Yeah.
Eagles look up past you. And
So apparently, William Atherton and the actor who played Vigo the Carpathian were both in Die Hard. I knew the guy who played Vigo the Carpathian.
Are we
was in
still
Die
talking
Hard.
about
He's-
Ghostbusters 1? Are we still
Yes.
talking
No.
about Ghostbusters 1?
He's the guy who has a machine gun, where John McClane's like, "Ho ho ho! I now have a machine gun." But he's a German actor, boxer / wrestler, voiced by Max
Max Van
what
Sydow.
part of Ghostbusters 1?
Max von
Who was he in
Sydow, who was
Ghostbusters
also
1?
in. He was also in The Force Awakens. He's like,
But-
"Hey, Poe Dameron,
But who was
here's
he?
the thing."
Who was he in Ghostbusters 1?
Max von Sydow? Sydow?
He was
Who was
only in
nobody.
2 because he was the voice.
He's only in
of-
2.
So
the voice of
I thought
Vigo.
you said we were talking about Ghostbusters 1.
Well,
Yep,
also,
Yep.
if we
Thank
are,
you, David, for the assist.
Carl
thought-
Carl,
just thought you said
Carl
yes.
Winslow from Family Matters is the cop who says, "Hey, Ghostbusters, the mayor wants to see you," who's also in Die Hard.
Oh,
So that was Ghostbusters 1, right? Ghostbusters
So-
1?
Speaking of
all we can
expanded
talk about.
universe,
That's not Ghostbusters
Ghostbusters.
1. It's not
Ghostbusters
Ghostbusters
does take place in the same universe as Casper the Friendly Ghost.
I know,
It
because Dan
does.
Aykroyd goes in to try to get the house, and he's like, "Oh, you got a problem here," and runs out.
He's
you're
like, "Who
gonna
gonna
call
some-"
somebody else.
Yeah, and that pissed me off so much as a kid.
Why did that
I was
piss you
like,
off? That's hilarious.
Because he
Did you-
hates everything nice.
Have you just always had a bad sense of humor?
Yes.
No,
Okay.
because I saw that as a kid. I was like, "I love Ghostbusters. Why would Ray Stantz
Kansas
ever
is
do
about to
that?"
become Drinker's Open Bar, I swear to God.
So what do you think makes Ray's personality like
Grayson,
better?
that means we're about to get a
This
ton of.
is-
That's
He
what
either
this is
runs
right
from that
now.
house or
This
he
is what we
killed
know.
Casper.
This is my villain
Start
origin.
popping bottles, boys, because good lord.
I love open
Hold on,
bar,
we're
though.
talking about Wild Wild West. Is that what somebody said?
This
Wiki,
is my
wiki,
villain
wow.
origin.
I'm gonna
story.
say I'm Kenneth Branagh in a wheelchair doing a
Let's talk about that
stereotypical
giant ass
accent.
spider.
I actually have a guilty pleasure for Wild Wild West.
Okay, so
Like,
hey, does anybody want to say anything else to Ghostbusters 1 to wrap up this deep dive?
it is
Do we
the best
think-
movie ever made, hands
Wow,
down.
that's an exaggeration. Do we
No,
think
it's very hyperbolic. Yes.
do we think that in the Ghostbusters world,
Mhm.
bugs and animals all become ghosts?
Oh, that's very good. Very good point.
We haven't seen Ghost to confirm that.
Also,
no, that's the thing.
also-
That's the thing. Yes,
here's another one. Let's think about this. Look at how much they charged that guy to get rid of Slimer. Okay.
$5,000.
Okay. Now let's go look at that montage, and then let's look at how many fucking ghosts got out of that trap when he turned it off. There was
No,
hundreds
they were
of ghosts.
millionaires.
How were they not loaded?
Okay, here's the thing.
What happened?
According to the novelization,
Bad
once the
investments.
ghosts, like I understand what you're saying. It makes a lot of sense.
They
once
should
the
have
ghosts got-
purchased their own franchise McDonald's location because
They should have.
McDonald's is where you can get a
Drinking
tasty
Ecto
meal at
Cooler
any time
to
of
this
day.
day, boys.
Oh my god, I wish I had an Ecto Cooler
Speaking
right
of McDonald's, I know Michael Keaton was in line originally after
At a
Belushi.
McDonald's?
He was one of the people
He
to.
was in line to get his fries.
That's how he became the founder. It was the craziest thing. I actually watched a movie on Michael Keaton becoming the founder. I didn't know it was a true story.
now. Oh my
Like,
god,
uh,
that's so good.
Why would they?
go-
You
can
thought
I
they
go?
made up the
Can I
story
go?
of McDonald's?
Oh,
They're
okay.
just
Hold
like,
on.
let's
Hold
say
on.
this happened.
Nick,
Why would
if
they
you
do
want to
that?
go, just give us your rating and recommendation, and then we will let you go.
Let's
Be
just.
quiet.
Why can't we just all do that? Like, let's just wrap it the fuck up.
Because I think we're having a good conversation about
We're
Ray
having a
Kroc.
really good time, right?
Speaking of,
No, I agree with Nick. I'm gonna have to tap out here soon. I gotta get up at 5 a.m. tomorrow. So
So
Matt,
Matthew,
Matt,
Matthew,
what's the score?
what's your rating and
What's the score?
recommendation?
oh, Ghostbusters is easily a 10 out of 10. It's one of my top 10 movies and like all time, and I'd highly recommend it.
It's true too. I've seen his list of movies. You guys will see it soon. That's a
I
tease.
was there live for that.
I know Alex saw it live. Matt, before you leave, say people were wandering the New Mexican desert in July, or like wanting to look for aliens. Where could they maybe find some and find you?
In Las Vegas, baby. Woo!
I mean, yes, we will go for Las
Las
Vegas, not
Vegas.
Nevada, but what
No,
else will we
they've got
go
some
through?
there, you know, we're gonna hit that wonderful city called Roswell, New Mexico, home of Area 51's crash
No,
site, where
Area
the crash
51
site-
is Nevada.
Well, the crash site, didn't they take it to Area 51? Am I mistaken there?
Groom Lake.
I don't know. That's a tease for a future episode. We'll tell you guys 4 months down the line.
Oh, all right. Well, I thought Roswell, the
Models are
thing
there.
crashed there, and then they took it over there. Okay, my bad. So it's a different alien crash site. Then I have no fucking idea what happened to the spaceship or aliens that crashed in Roswell then.
Oh, speaking of Area 51, though, Matt, I found out I have a mutual friend with one, Bob Lazar, because he popped up in the People You May Know. And I was like, how
Bob
do I
Lazar.
know?
Alex,
Bob
have you-
All right, so Nick, your rating recommendation. Do you remember the movie after this conversation?
I'm
Not
so
the parts you
mentally,
wanted to remember.
I'm so mentally fried right now. I
Can-
need
can-
Alex to turn his camera off before I give this because I don't want to see him dancing right now. I don't want to see his
All right.
face. No, Ghostbusters. I mean it's a good movie. I'd give it a solid 8.5 out of 10. It has some flaws for sure. Especially in the script writing, and that shows in the fact that it was rushed. Alex, I thought I told you to turn your camera off. I would recommend it.
I'll do that for
I
the bit.
would recommend it though. It is a good film. Like I said, I greatly enjoyed it. I literally just saw it for the first time a day ago. I'm 31 now, so to me it seems like very much of the 80s, but it's a good movie. This has been an experience talking about it.
Nick, this is going to be our highest rated episode. I can just feel it. Because that's how YouTube
I
works.
I don't want to come back, but I have a feeling if the fans really love it and they're like, "Oh, we need Alex and Nick on the same thing again," I'll be like,
So
"Oh."
they can fight and have like
So
like,
Nick,
feud
so
and
Alex
cut
can
promos
avoid
with
the
each
crap
other?
out of Nick.
Well, Nick, Matt, thank you for joining. You guys are now free of this conversation if you guys do not want to stay.
All right. Well, peace out, guys. Have a good night. Hopefully next time I'll plan better and not schedule myself for a 5 a.m. shift. So we'll see.
well, that's exactly what my tarot card said.
happy busting, gentlemen.
All right. On
Y'all
that
have-
note, goodbye.
Alex, no tarot on this.
No,
Anti.
you know how I feel about tarot. Like it's dumb.
Yeah. Mainly because I dug into the history, and me and Grayson had to sit there for like a whole day's worth and listen to it. It was so bad we had to
So
just
sorry.
walk to the park and contemplate
sorry.
playing football for an hour.
Dude,
It
it's just
it's-
like you. Oh my god.
no, that stuff's up there with like astrology. Like it's just, hey, let's just make up meanings for whatever we want.
You sound like a Taurus.
Here, let me get you some gems. Absorb that bad aura, because that's what
That
you
was
did.
such a Gemini take. I mean,
Oh my god. No, that's what I do. Like when I talk to women who are like, they're like, what's your sign? I'm like, take a guess. They go, tell me more about you. I'm like, no, guess my sign. Because it's and like it drives them nuts.
No, and then whatever they guess, you're like, oh my god, how did you know?
No, I don't do that.
You're
I'm like,
so
no,
good.
try again. You got 11 more guesses.
Keegan.
I was thinking Leo. What's a Libra? That's the
Nothing to do with Ghostbusters. I
That's
have
the
request.
scale.
I eventually want us to do a deep dive on Jumanji.
Oh,
I'd be so
the
about
book
that.
or the two movies or all at the same time.
We're
You know what,
actually going to
Alex?
play the
Alex,
board
if
game
you're
and
gonna
then
be
do the
there-
deep dive.
If you're gonna be there, we can't talk about the book at all.
Can we at least play the game and then like do a deep
No.
dive, play the game?
Have you played the board game? Have you played it?
I didn't know it was a real
You
board
have
game. I thought
survived the jungle. You don't know, okay? We're not playing that. I've seen 3 movies about why it's a bad idea.
well, wait, there's 3 movies about Jumanji? I just thought there was like the 2. No, there is a sequel. Oh shoot, with The Rock. Right? Jumanji
Yeah.
2?
The
Electric
sequel was
Boogaloo?
actually pretty good
2 with the Rock.
with Danny
yeah.
DeVito,
Oh right, yeah.
and then there's gonna be another one to finish out the trilogy
Oh, there's a whole trilogy of Jumanji
Oh, we need to wrap
of the new
that
ones.
up.
Yeah.
films. Nice.
Wait,
Nice.
Zathura wasn't the trilogy?
Oh,
We don't
Zathura
talk-
was
we
good.
don't
I love
talk-
Sam
no, no,
Rockwell.
no. We don't talk
Sam
about
Rockwell.
Zathura.
Was it Sam Rockwell? He's in that, right?
Zathura was awful.
Well, I like
Sam
Sam
Tom's the
Rockwell.
third to go get you a juice box. Be out.
I think what
Dumbest line of that
made
entire movie. I
Zathura
hated
so
it so
bad
much.
is that it all took place in just the house, basically, because that was like the space center, the spaceship. Like I get
No.
it, but it was
Sorry.
not really as good.
It was not Sam Rockwell. It was Dax Shepard.
It was one of the last times
I-
he was relevant.
I get those two confused because I love them both. I think they're both fantastic. I want to.
Man.
Have they been in a movie together? Let's look it up.
No.
I know Sam Rockwell was in the assassination of Jesse James, though. He did pretty good in that.
And
He was also
Dax
an Iron Man
Shepard-
and liked to dance.
Dax Shepard was in Employee of the Month with Dane Cook. That was the highlight of his career so far.
This is an 81 Honda. How dare you?
This is just now we've drifted away from Ghostbusters. This is just pop culture.
What are you talking
great-
about? We're talking about Dax Shepard's dead
Bro,
career.
this is still recording. Cripes.
There you go.
there it is. Dan Aykroyd's dad's book.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, oh man, do you realize how expensive that is on Amazon?
Is it
the
really?
hardcover or soft? Yeah,
Hardcover.
it's like
$298.
dude, it's like $200.
Is it really?
Yeah,
I
it's
mean-
nuts. Yeah.
That's like
Keegan's like, oh man, I'm making some money tonight. He's pulling up eBay right now.
I have a World
So
of
what do
Kong
you
book
think?
where Peter Jackson and Weta team went and like explored the entirety of Skull Island, and it goes for like $400 now. But at
Good
Borders for like
lord.
$20.
My God.
My
God.
I wish
My
that
God,
was
run through the
better.
table.
My God, King. That's a.
Here.
Wait.
By the way,
Wait.
I'm pretty sure they're almost
Keegan-
on to enter the call or answer the call at this point.
They probably could be. Let's do that movie real quick. That was terrible. The only line that I liked from that movie was when they go to the dean, and he's like, "I got 2 words for you," and Kristen Wiig is like, "You're fired," and Melissa McCarthy's like, "No," and I was like, "Suck it! It's suck it, right?" And he's like, "Suck it." I'm like, "Yeah!" Dun-dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. Yeah, had a little DX moment there. I just smacked my freaking microphone.
All right, so starting with you, Grayson, rating a recommendation.
Rating, I'd give this a solid 8.6. It doesn't have like a lot of the nostalgic value for me, as a lot of other people do have for it, but it's still a quality movie. Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Ernie Hudson, and why am I going to the other dude's name?
Harold Ramis.
Oh, because he's
Or
dead.
Harold Ramis. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe.
He's dead.
And Harold Ramis, top tier. Show that they were able to make a comedy that's lasted generations out of one of the most bizarre subject materials possible. So definitely check it out if you haven't.
David.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna go solid 9 out of 10. I think it's taken off a little bit just because our times have changed so much. It is a little dated, but as we mentioned multiple times, it still holds up massively, even though it is from back then. It's still better than I'd say 90% of the movies that have come out in the past decade almost. Like it's fantastic movie. The chemistry of the cast cannot be overstated. I feel like that's what sells this movie. If you didn't have the right guys in those parts, this would have been a flop. Absolutely would have fallen on its face. So they got through it. The story behind it is amazing. The movie itself, fantastic. I mean, if it wasn't a great movie, why are we still talking about it now?
4 hours
Awesome
later, right?
movie. As Grayson said, the fact that they could make such, especially at that time, a bizarre topic into something that became popular with the mainstream and spawned one of the probably top 10 most iconic theme tunes of all time. This movie really has a little bit of everything in it. I can't think of anybody that wouldn't enjoy this movie. Of course, I would recommend it, but again, if you've watched this far, there's no way you haven't already seen it. So definitely, it is fantastic. I think it's great. It's had some highs, it's had some lows in the whole franchise history, but personally, I can't wait for more Ghostbusters because bustin' makes you feel good.
And on to you, Alex.
I will say, like, having grown up with this movie, I guess because I do remember the late 80s. This film is such a cornerstone of that era, and there is almost kind of a timeless feeling about it. And I know that in the commentary they talk about they want to make kind of a timeless sort of thing about it, because you can watch it and go, oh, it's not really 80s. Maybe some of the specific things kind of make it 80s, but this film is awesome. It's one of my favorite films. Is it top 10 or top 5? I can't remember. I'd say top 10, but it's somewhere between 8 or 9 out of 10. Only because I know like what ranks higher than this film. But there's a special place in my heart for this movie. And I can watch it anytime. I can quote it anytime. And there's just so much lore behind this. Like even with the second film, which we didn't touch on. But even if it didn't exist, it's still like, this is special. This is a special point in time when movies were just so good. It's wonderful. And I love it. I love it. I love you, Ghostbusters. I grew up on you, and I love it. It's one of my earliest loves, even before Star Wars. This is one of my favorite films, and it means so much to me. And it's not just the nostalgia factor, because I grew up with it, and it's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And it's hard to replicate what this movie was trying to do, even with the sequels. So, yeah. Also, bustin' makes me feel good. That's the...
Now, here's a quick...
Oh, Lord.
And it's just a yes or no. If Ghostbusters had never come out, and this year, the first movie came out, it was modernized for now, but it's still same story, just, in current era, still works great, practical effects look good, none of the, like, dated part. It looks like a modern movie, but it's the exact same story, the chemistry, the ages of everybody, everything. Would it be as successful?
That's
Are
a
you
very
saying
good question.
Like there's nothing that came before this hypothetical?
There's never, no,
movie that-
Ghostbusters starts this year.
Okay.
It
Today.
came out.
Today.
It still had today's like budget behind it and everything, but the heart of the story, the lines, the script, everything's the same. The actors are the ages they were in the first one, so they're still, they're still relevant, all of that. Would it still become what it's become now with this audience? Do we
I think it's definitely possible.
It's possible, yes, but I think there's also
You're having a bet. It's a yes or no. You're putting down
Yeah.
$1 million. Yes or no?
100%. Put me down for yes.
Ooh.
100%.
I'll go for both. Put me on yes.
oof. No, 'cause I don't know.
As soon as Alex
Do you
gives
think
his answer, I'll give my reasons.
Do you think the humor would translate to like the modern generation, like everything as it
Yep,
is? You're
that's the
saying
question.
everything is.
The script
That's
is the
the thing.
same. It's just updated. Like the sets are, they're doing it at the places. The ages
Sure,
are the
they're
same.
taking-
Graphics are a
taking
little
place
better,
in-
so it doesn't look hokey at all. It's all of that, but everything else is the same.
I don't think it looks hokey at all either. Never looked hokey to me.
That's that's
Um,
fine. Then it looks exactly the same.
This is hard. This is hard because like I watched this film, so I have.
I
feel
would
like
say
someone like
yes
Nick-
because
I'm gonna tell you now.
Nick
I'm
would
gonna
be the
say
better
I'm gonna say
answer.
yes.
yeah, I'd say yes
And
because
that's great.
If you look at what's coming out in Hollywood, there's so much formulaic stuff coming on. This would break the mold, and people tend to go those type of movies. And then it's word of mouth. It
Okay.
grows. It might be a
Okay.
bigger success today than
So,
when it came out.
to Keegan's
In that
point
case, that's a
too, with
yes.
like, if anybody wants to make the argument for shorter attention spans or anything else like that, the movie moves quickly. It's directed. It keeps everything poignant. There's action to keep you interested. Everything keeps moving forward. Plus,
Enough
on the
comedy to keep you laughing as you're going.
Exactly. Plus, on that subject as well, with the comedy,
Okay.
Shane Gillis is
Okay.
not exactly the same, but he is a similar vein of comedy, but not exactly the same. He's one of the most popular comics out there right now. That comedy still hits with a lot of people, no matter what a lot of people
Okay.
want to say. It still is. It's still relevant, prevalent, and people still relate to it. So I think it could still come out today and still be a smash hit because it's something different than what a lot of people are getting right now. So if it was to come out today, 100% feel it would be just as big of a hit.
Fair enough. Fair enough. My only concern was like, I've seen it back when it first came out, and I've seen how comedy has changed since then because of whatever cancel culture, political correctness, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I like to think that it would still survive today, and it's awesome. But yeah,
I mean, I feel
yes.
like it's got, like y'all said, so much timelessness that
Yes.
it still resonates. I mean, the fact that we're fucking talking about it here, getting close to midnight on a weeknight, 30 something years, 40 years later almost. You know what I mean? I feel like that alone, I mean, you're literally wearing a replica movie prop basically because you love it so much. I feel like
Oh,
the
I do.
principles, the characters, I feel like see, there he goes to grab more. I just feel like there's so much in this movie that still resonates with what it means to be part of the human experience. See, look at that right there.
This is
It's
a
just- yeah.
3D piece of Vigo the Carpathian.
That's so cool.
Oh, that's how much I love Ghostbusters.
But yeah, I feel like there's just so much, even though it's a series about ghosts, it says a hell of a lot about being a human. It's definitely encapsulates a lot of the best parts of being alive. And I think that those key parts of life that it really expands on and really exemplifies, I think that's what keeps it still relevant today and why we are all just as eager to buy a ticket to a new Ghostbusters as soon as we get the chance.
Right. Who are you going to call?
Well said.
He-Man.
My therapist. What?
Also,
Yeah.
I can't hang this back up.
But
But
also,
yeah,
like, on the subject of comedy of the Ghostbusters, it is raunchy, but it's inoffensive. It doesn't, it's not like Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's pretending to be a Japanese dude.
No, it's lewd humor, but it's not over the line humor.
Exactly.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. Oh, actually, no. This is actually no. I do have a actually good point from the novel. So,
What did I do?
No, this is actually a really good point. I'm legit for real.
No, you're
So
good, you're good.
when the montage happens in the film, the montage happens also in the book, and it reads off like all these headlines and stuff. And there is there's a bit where it's like the ACLU is like, oh, don't ghost lives, like dead people have rights too, or ghosts have rights too. It's like, oh gosh, that's so like perfect. That's so perfect for like, you know, whatever. Yeah, the ACLU calls for rights for the dead. That was literally a headline in the book when during the montage scene. It's like, that makes so much sense. Like there'd be some group out there be like, you guys are doing bad stuff, and the ghosts are just innocent
Like-
people, and they
Think
deserve
of their
to.
families. They're
Yes.
people that care about them that are still alive.
All right. So my rating on that note.
I forgot about that.
Sorry, we were doing this. Sorry, Keegan. You got a
He's
lot
like,
of
I have to
editing
edit
ahead of you.
so
I'm
much
so
out of
sorry.
this.
This is
I
gonna
don't
be
even wanna
harder
show
than the
That's
video.
hard, Jones.
Yeah, this is harder than the video where Matt does magic and makes me appear out of nowhere.
We started while the
It's
sun
okay.
was up. It is now fully down. That is insane to me.
We started when the
realized that.
sun was up. It's coming back up. It's the weirdest.
And-
So my rating, I would say 8 out of 10. It's definitely probably in my top 10 or my top 20 films for sure. I don't know about top 10 because my 5 is pretty set, but definitely top 20. I think it is timeless, and for a lot of points that we've said throughout, but also because at the end of the day, it's just about these 4 guys going into business, a small business, and trying to survive in a world where big business doesn't want them there. And that's something I think we can relate because it's not about some millionaire. It's something that any of us can go do and make our own little business. I mean, hell, I think all of us are trying at some fashion. And I think the comedy, the characters, it's well written. It holds up. You show it to new audiences today and they still enjoy it. So yeah, that's my rating. I recommend it. But until next time, Grayson, if people want to find you, find your art, find anything, what can they do?
You can see me at gray.bay on Instagram. That's pretty much all of where I post to. So, yeah.
Grayson's a great artist. Go check it out. Alex, you're working on a game. What else can they find out about you?
Oh shoot. I have my own personal Instagram and crap. I mean, there's really not much on me aside from that. Like, I mean, there's like my Facebook page or whatever. I mean, I'm not like some celebrity or whatever out there. I really
And
have
my
nothing.
phone number is
8675309.
And if you're
I
a
thought I
ghost, give it a call.
recognized you, Jenny.
Exactly. I
But
mean,
Dick-
I mean, I do have
Oh, we're
Sorry,
still going
what?
to do the closing stuff. Sorry.
Oh, I have no
No,
idea.
go,
I don't
go,
have anything
go.
to plug. You can go to like tempest84.com for the game that I'm working on. That's about it. Other than that, like I just have a bunch of personal social medias that it's not really important. Hope you edit that well, please.
I'm just gonna put your Instagram like handle really big on the screen, flashing.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of Instagram, YouTube, David, where can people find you and find your awesome videos?
Yeah, if you like seeing cool, weird stuff out in the world, ghost stuff, paranormal stuff, theme park stuff, just interesting places to check out that you probably have never been, come check us out on Abnormal Voyages. Come tag along on some of our adventures. Take you to some cool places, meet some quirky folks, and have a good time over there. YouTube.com/Abnormal Voyages. Google us up. It'll bring everything up. Search it on YouTube. Instagram, same handle, Abnormal Voyages. And yeah, we'll see you on the road.
Ooh, subscribing now.
So first off, we want to say thank you to everybody for helping us reach 100 episodes of Culz Reviews. Obviously, we wouldn't be here without you guys, and we are all super appreciative that you guys just let us be here and talk movies and TV shows and documentaries, and it means a lot to us. And this definitely isn't goodbye. We have more planned. In fact, next week, if you watch, we might have another Ghostbusters thing coming up, so stay tuned. But being that it was our 100th episode, we just want to do something special to celebrate. So we got all these guests and got a movie we thought you guys would enjoy and was kind of pertinent to the channel. And so again, guys, thank you so much for your support and love. It means a lot, and we'll continue to do our best and get better with each video. Make sure to go check out all the links in the description below to help support all our awesome guests and all their different projects that they're working on. They're all great guys, and I promise you'll enjoy what they're doing. So again, that was both Nick's, Alex, Greyson, and David of Abnormal Voyages. Make sure, go to the description, subscribe to their channels, follow them on Instagram, all that stuff. We promise you guys won't be disappointed. But until next time, for more Culz Reviews deep dives, click that link to your left. For more just Culz Reviews, click that link to your bottom left. And for more about us here at Culz Paranormal, click that link to your right. And don't forget to hit that like and give us a subscribe. And let us know, is there a movie you want us to do a deep dive on? Tell us in the comments below.